our community and our students is a top priority here in South San Francisco Unified School District. Next, please know that we understand how difficult the situation is for the entire community here in South San Francisco, and we're doing all the best that we can. It will get better, and perhaps we'll learn some things along the way. We want to thank our community for their continued support and for your patience. These are extraordinary times, and your support and patience means the world to all of us. Having said that, we have transitioned, as you can see, to virtual board meetings pursuant to the provisions of the governor's executive order. And at our scheduled April 9th meeting, we had a minor technical glitch. As we value the public's need and right to meaningfully participate in our meetings, we voted as a board to postpone the meeting and schedule it as soon as we were able to. This is a special meeting to replace our April 9th school board meeting. The current platform we are currently using is, as you can see, Zoom, and we are also being broadcast through YouTube and I believe other social media. And the meeting will be also streamed live. Current links will always be posted on our district website. And this is really important for everyone listening to know that we want you to get the latest and most updated password, ID, link, etc. in our district website. As we want the public to have the opportunity to make comments and they can't be made live. Thus, we want to extend a generous amount of time to submit questions or comments prior to our board meeting. The link that will be in our website will directly bring you over to YouTube or, for example, for tonight to this webinar format on Zoom. Board members, cabinet, and other presenters will be muted and called upon as Madam President deems. When a board member would like to speak, they will use the raised hand feature and will be called upon by Madam President Murray. Should there be a discussion amongst the board and the cabinet about a particular topic, the host of the meeting will unmute the microphones for a discussion to ensure, but each board and staff member will use the raised hand feature so that we're aware to be called upon. Should a board have action items, for example, tonight on any resolutions or pending items that we will need to approve, we will take a voice vote on each item. The president will ask for a first and a second, followed by a complete roll call vote. Lastly, we are inclusive school district community, and as we previously shared, we value our community's ability to participate in our meetings. To that end, we have a separate Zoom conference call for our Spanish-speaking community. If you're in need of Spanish translation, please dial in to our Spanish conference call, and Señora Juanita Flores will be available to translate for you. You can dial in the Spanish translation at the number 669, 900-6833 with the ID 127486131 and the password 002438. I will now say this in Spanish in an abbreviated version for our Spanish-speaking audience. Con este fin y por último queremos dar la bienvenida a esta reunión virtual de la Junta Directiva del Distrito Escolar de Sur San Francisco. Si necesita traducción en español, le invitamos que nos acompañe y la señora Juanita Flores está disponible para traducir a través de nuestra línea telefónica gratuita. Usted puede marcar al número en español. El número es 669-900-6833. Repito, 669-900-6833. Con el número de identificación 127-486-131. Y el código o la clave, password, es 002438. Repito, 002438. Toda esta información también la puede asimismo obtener en el sitio de internet de nuestro distrito escolar y en adelante y en futuras reuniones toda esta información, incluso el número de teléfono que acabo de repetir, lo puede encontrar en el sitio de internet www.ssfusd.org. Thank you. Now, can I please have a roll call, please?
Trustee Baker.
Here.
Trustee Lujan.
Present.
Trustee Richardson. Trustee Richardson,
Present. Can you
Vice
hear me?
President Flores.
I am present.
And
And-
I'm here.
President Murray.
I'm sorry.
You are
Problems with
completely
my
fine.
computer.
You're
I'm glad
totally
to be
fine.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the record to show at 7:15, I will turn it over to President Murray to continue presiding over the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Flores, or Vice President Flores. So we've had roll call. Pledge allegiance, Trustee Baker.
Sure, if we will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Where's the-
allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the
To the
republic,
republic
for which it stands,
stand,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible, with
and
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we had closed session on April 9th. And it says the Board of Trustees met in closed session on April 9th, 2020 to discuss the following item: conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Due to technical difficulties, the open session of April 9th board meeting needed to be postponed to April 14th, 2020. For the benefit of the community, staff will report out on this closed item during this meeting. Dr. Spalding?
Thank you, President Murray. In closed session, there was a first by Trustee Lujan, a second by Trustee Baker, and a motion passed 5-0 to provide direction to administration regarding anticipated litigation and settlement agreement.
Thank you very much. Okay, review of agenda.
I have
Is
two
there-
quick items.
Okay,
In Consent agenda, item 3F, fundraising events. It will be pulled because they aren't happening right now.
okay.
And also action item 2A, which lists the resolutions for retirees. The information in the title is incorrect, but the resolution numbers in the description are correct. You'll see that when we get to that item.
Okay, okay.
I had one more item to
Okay.
ask.
Okay.
Dr. Moore, remember that item on the consent agenda that we talked about today? It was item D, number 17, on the change order. Should we bring it up now, or is
We
it
we
been?
can bring it up when we get to the consent agenda.
Okay.
And we'll, Neilani will also bring up item N3F for the fundraisers. We'll bring that up during the consent agenda as well. Okay. Okay, so next, recognition awards. Dr. Moore?
Thank you so much, President Murray. It's oftentimes such a pleasure for us to recognize and acknowledge our volunteers at all of our campuses. And due to COVID-19, we are no longer able to do that in person, but we still wanted to acknowledge our parents, our grandparents, extended families, caregivers who have spent this year supporting our students and supporting our staff. And so I wanted to at least read your names and so that we can acknowledge you. And we will be sending signed certificates to the site principals of these schools, and they will be providing that to our parents. So from South San Francisco High School, we have Mabel Chung Choi, Lisa Gonzalez, Trini Hernandez, Angelina Marquez, Reem Nazra, and Winsome Winnie Shu. Thank you so much for all of you at South San Francisco for the work you're doing and support you're providing to our staff and our students. I also have another school this evening, Parkway Heights Middle School volunteers. And we'll start with Stephanie Cruz, Lance Populac, Valeria Rodriguez, D. Sharaf Populac, and Katya Villanova. So thank you again to you all as well for the support that you are giving to our students and our staff at our schools.
Thank you very much. Next, PTA council remarks. Mr. Santa? John?
Good evening, Trustee Murray, President Murray, trustees, Superintendent Moore, members of cabinet, and members of the audience in attendance. I wanted to take this opportunity to first thank President Murray, Trustee Baker, and Trustee Richardson for attending last week's PTA council meeting. And also would like to extend my thanks to Assistant Superintendent Irish for his presentation at the meeting. There was a lot of back and forth with that, and I think a lot of questions got answered. Now on to the rest of my report for this evening. I would like to advise the trustees that, of course, our PTAs are all not meeting in any way, shape, or form in face-to-face fashion, but we have been authorized by California State PTA to hold Zoom type meetings in order to do business and get our elections in place. Our boards at the schools have been authorized to do so. And insofar as holding elections, they are required to first acquire nominations for positions available and then post them for 30 days. Then after the 30-day period, if they have not already met, they will have the election. If no boards are in place for specific schools or schools could not field candidates that fill boards, the current boards in place will be maintained as the officers in lieu of start of the next year, where PTA council may then go in and help them organize elections and put officers in place. This is to maintain continuity of the units and to keep them operational. They all still have to do their normal business through June 30th and close their books on June 30th, and then have audits done before they can resume business on the first day of school and beyond into the school year. I do have some concerns I have to bring to your attention, and those are from the financial end of our units. Many of our units, of course, with the ceasing of school activities in early March, we're in the midst of fundraising programs that will, of course, did not or will not happen. So those funds are not there. Many of our schools depend on these funds to finish out their year and also to have startup capital for the upcoming year. The other thing that is normally done at this time of year is the PTA units empty their bank accounts to within a certain point and provide each of the principals a specific amount of money as to their request that are either earmarked for use or just generally given to the principal. These funds may not be getting to the principals, and if they do get to the principals, may be in a very reduced manner. To that end, also, this will carry into the coming school year, as with the economic downturn due to the virus, we will of course have parents who don't have work or are still on unemployment or in other financial straits and situations. So there is a potential for PTA memberships initially at the start of the year to be way down. And also there will be a potential for upcoming PTA fundraisers in the next school year to be diminished in their normal income or with their normal income due to the economic situation. I need to prepare the district for the fact that much of the funds that some of our units raise do go to offset funding for programs at some of our schools, especially our elementary schools, like PE programs, peer support programs, counseling, things of that nature, and other educational enrichment programs. So we are in need of cooperation and assistance there, because we may not be able to backfill some of those situations right away. And of course, our principals will be then taking from their site funds more heavily. So I need to advise you that that will be there, and hopefully we will get as much cooperation as we can from the board, the administration, and in working with PTA council to help our units get the situation straightened out as fast as it can. For those units that do not have viable officers groups or boards in place, council will step in wherever possible and assist in the maintenance of the units to make sure that we try and keep as much continuity as possible there. But many of the units may also not be able to, of course, do business until they have a viable set of officers and new signature authorities on their bank accounts. With that, I will open it up to any discussion or questions. Otherwise, my report is complete.
Well, thank you for having your PTA council meeting virtually. It was a great meeting, and Mr. Irish provided a lot of information, and I know that a lot of the PTA presidents had a lot of questions. So I appreciate your having you and President Flores having the meeting.
Madam Chair.
Trustee Baker.
Yeah, Mr. Santa, in terms of virtual meetings, that's great. I'm sorry, did you mention officers, and what was the, can the current officers continue until even if they're turned out?
At this time, yes, they can. What we're attempting to do is maintain viable boards up to a point where if the need arises, we can then, of course, transition out with appointments and other elections. Officers may, of course, if they are still at the school, continue to stay on and be in the position at this time. We understand that those situations do arise. State PTA sort of frowns on it if you go beyond your second year, but in situations like this where we may not be able to get people right away, I'm sure we're going to have a little bit more latitude.
Understood. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Madam President,
Trustee Flores?
Mr. Sina, are your PTAs, would you say all of them are transitioning to virtual or Zoom meetings, or do some of them have the resources to be able to do that? And is it across the board, or can you give a little bit on that if you can?
To the best of my knowledge, and I cannot speak for all units as I have not spoken or had heard from all of the units, most of them have the ability and the technology personally, utilization of tablets, phones, and home computers, to log into a Zoom account and operate. Now, the fact that most of them will be working on free Zoom accounts will mean, of course, their meetings can't go more than 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
Before they are cut off. So they will have to do as much business as they can in that time, or do it in multiple sections. But they should have technology in place, again, because of cell phones and tablets and laptops and things of that nature. Anyone who doesn't, I would assume that our units will contact council and the district for assistance.
Great.
And when I mean district, I mean 17th district, not the school district.
Sure.
Although if that is available, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I know Parkway Heights Middle School is having a meeting tomorrow night. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Santa. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to Staff Association Representatives' remarks. South San Francisco Federation of Adult Educators? No. South San Francisco Classroom Teachers Association, Mr. Yano.
Good evening, President Murray, Superintendent Moore, board members, cabinet, fellow teachers, students, parents, and community. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. You can't see me because I can't do one of those cool backgrounds, so I'm not playing. As has been said so many times since this crisis started, we are in completely new territory. I want to say something first to any students who may be listening. Students, your teachers miss you. We, like you, are very, very disappointed that this is how it appears that the school year will end. We hope that you are getting more learning than distance out of your distance learning. Parents, and I speak as a parent and as a teacher, I know that this is a difficult time for you and your children. I want you to know that your teachers are doing the very best that they know how to reach your children through whatever means they can. Parents, teachers know that all students learn differently and have different learning styles. That is true of teachers also. We all have different teaching styles. Were you to have walked the halls of any school 2 months ago and stopped into half a dozen different classrooms and observed each class, you would have seen 6 unique individual teachers, each teaching in their own unique way. That is still happening today. Look, I was unhappy when they took my chalkboard away and gave me whiteboards. I still use a flip phone. I am not comfortable holding so-called synchronous classes yet. I have not had the training, nor do I have the comfort level with the technology to do that now. I will work on it, I will learn, and I hope to be doing some live teaching soon. Right now, I am wrestling with Google Classroom and sending out my lessons through that platform. Each teacher is at a different level of ability and comfort with this new technology. Please understand that we are learning as we go and that you will see differences, as always, in teachers' teaching styles. Our district has done as much as they can, and they're going to do more to make sure that every child has access to technology. Thank you to our administration for understanding that this has to be a priority. The administration knows that we need more devices and more hotspots for our students. And just like teachers, parents and students are at many different levels of sophistication with new technology. Until we can level the playing field as much as possible, at least with technology, we will not be reaching all of our students. Teachers, I know that you are all working harder than ever while still taking care of elders and children and partners and yourselves. You have shown incredible flexibility and dedication, just as you always do. This crisis has reminded us all what it means to be human and how much we need each other. It has reminded us that computers and robots and smartphones can't teach. Teachers teach. Those things are tools, marvelous tools, but without a passionate, caring human being that a child can connect with, children will not learn. That's why we are teachers. We live for the smiles and sometimes the tears that come with classroom life, and we can't wait to be back in the classroom making our magic again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So moving on, California School Employees Association, Chapter 197. I have a statement here from Jolene Malfatti. It says, I continue to remain vigilant in protecting the safety and welfare of our classified school employees during this crucial time. I rely on management to ensure the social distancing of employees who are required to report to work and to provide the necessary safety products for our employees at all times. It is in trying times like these when we truly realize the value of teamwork, respect, and perseverance to accomplish our common goal of educating our students. Sending my best wishes to all employees and students of SSFUSD. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Personnel Commission, Dr. Spalding.
Unmute, okay. Jay Spalding, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Thank you, President Murray. Personnel Commission has not met recently. We do have a meeting scheduled for this Monday, April 20th. Virtually, we are going to try it out in its infancies. It'll be at 5 p.m. More information will be sent out in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, items from the board, announcements, board calendar, board committees reports. Do we have any brief comments from our board members about county meetings or any of our meetings?
Madam Chair.
Trustee Baker?
Sure. I just want to point out that we usually do have 2 to 3 board members on the county update that happens 3 times weekly. So we are keeping a pace and listening for things that may be of school board or school district interest. And I want to say that County Manager Callaghy, Congresswoman Spear, Assemblyman Mullen and Berman, and Senator Wiener have all been on the call frequently, have all been really good about letting us know what resources that are available for our school districts. And I just like to take this chance to commend them for that.
Senator Jerry Rice, or
Jerry Rice, wow.
yeah. Jerry Hill is also there. How about, was anybody at the last city council meeting? No?
I can, President Murray.
Uh-huh.
I watch virtually, so I do want to acknowledge the City of South San Francisco has hosted their first virtual through GoToMeeting, which was run really well. I do want to acknowledge Councilmember Nogales. He did acknowledge the school district as well as Superintendent Moore for the district being to provide thermometers to the City of South San Francisco, in particular to the police department, as well as N95 masks. We did that and extended from the inventory that we had. We were able to provide, I believe, over 200, as well as a number of thermometers, so that the police department could utilize them in their efforts as well. We were recognized for that effort. Overall, the meeting was really well. Really well attended, and participation was really great, despite being a virtual meeting, a new format. So I do want to thank each one of the council members, as well as Mayor Garbarino, for his support and acknowledging, and I believe Superintendent Moore will give more a little bit on her update. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody want to talk on the County Board of Education? Trustee Lujan?
So San Mateo County School Board Association has worked with Superintendent Nancy McGee to coordinate. Now it's just a weekly call, but last week Superintendent McGee was given a spring break, so there was no meeting last week. So Mondays we get a weekly update, and then the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday.
Thank you very much. Does Trustee Richardson want to talk about the school board, the council, I'm sorry, the PTA council meeting?
Briefly, I was happy to see the attendance and the board, the PTA parents were very much asking quite a few questions. And I reminded them that at the time that we should continue the census. As we are elected people, the county gives us an update on the census respondents. And there are 59 languages that the census is written in, and the public is invited to either call or go on the computer online. It's a brief survey, and it's really not like I remember it before, very long. So it's very interesting and important, because it means money for our districts to have more people counted, because it means that we'll have more representatives bringing to the communities money that we need. And that is the importance and the reminder that I wanted to have, give the public at the moment for this. And that's what I gave. And I was a very nice meeting with Mr. Santa there, and all the parents being grateful for what the district is doing.
Thank you. Okay, so next, superintendent's report. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, President Murray. So the first item on my superintendent's report is a bell schedule update. And for that, I'm going to allow Mr. Irish to give a brief update on where we are with current bell schedules.
Good evening. My name is Keith Irish, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. Thank you, Dr. Moore, President Murray, members of the board. Really briefly, just to summarize for the public, the 2019-20 school year for our high schools was a pilot year for a 7-period modified bell schedule. So in December, I met with the 2 high school principals and 2 members each from South City and El Camino's bell schedule committee. We had a 2-hour meeting where we discussed the challenges of the new schedule and the benefits of the new schedule. At that meeting, I asked committee members to remember that the goal of the district is to uniform or standardize our high school schedules as much as possible. They went back and created 2 schedules that we then met again in January and February. Then at the end of February and early March, both bell schedule representatives presented both schedules to the staff of South City and El Camino for a vote. I'm pleased to say that we have more uniformity, but we do not have absolute uniformity. There's a couple key items that are differences between both school schedules that they value, and the district office and in particular Ed Services didn't want to take that away at this point. In particular, it's about how a school uses the flex or advisory period that is in the schedule. Just to remind the public, El Camino had longer advisory periods, and one day in the 1920 had 2 different sessions, where South City is not. Now that we're closer, our Thursdays are uniform and standardized, our collaboration days and some of our Tuesdays on a 5-period day are standardized. The Monday and Fridays are not, due to each school's strong opinion on where to have the actual 7-period day meet. So for example, El Camino staff prefers to start on a Monday in a block schedule format, where South City prefers to have every period meet on Monday. So all 7 periods meet. So that's the variance. We have the same start and end times. Our collaboration schedules are exact same. So we're very close. We'll continue to try every year to move closer. There's just some things that we would have to do from the district level through negotiations with our units to completely align all of our high school schedules. So that's my report. I can talk to the site leaders about posting and sharing the new schedules for the 2020-21 school year with their communities in the near future, because I'm sure parents and students are very curious to see it. We're going to do a formal presentation, and it's a little more difficult virtually. So that's my update, and I'll take questions or comments from the board.
Any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Trustee Baker?
Sure. Just a little bit of feedback that I've been getting from parents, students, and teachers. One, regarding the longer classes, I think we've been seeing our teachers have been seeing some students lose focus as we start getting to close to an hour and a half sometime. I don't know if that's more of, how they're going to have to adjust their teaching, or, it's just a fact of life these days that they're going to have to deal with, because that's how college classes are. But that's an observation. But the main thing that I want to bring up is what was brought up last year when we talked about starting this, and that was the staffing levels. We're going to probably either need more hiring, or we're going to have a lot of people at 120%. Have we tried to narrow either of those down to give a more respectable workload yet? And let me just ask one final question to add on. When does the new later start time take into effect, and is that being taken into effect with the bell schedule?
So if I may, I'll answer the first question. Just like you alluded to, Mr. Baker, we need to continue to work with our staff around engagement and instructional practices. But yes, you're correct. 87 minutes or 90 minutes is a long time, and it's adjustment for our students. We're working on professional learning opportunities for our staff with that. And just like President CTA Yano said at the beginning, the changing from a 7-period 55-minute to an 87-minute is quite an adjustment for all of our teachers. And I just want to commend them because they had really a short amount of time to adjust. They adjusted over the summer last year, and then used a lot of their collaboration time and staff meeting time to continuously try to improve their practice and meet some of those concerns that you brought up. In terms of staffing levels, Dr. Spalding, who is the Assistant Sup of HR, yes, we're adjusting because we would, of course, like to limit and reduce the number of staffing opportunities in terms of number of teachers that are 1.2. So as we advertise, we're doing staffing right now. That's where we're in. So we're making adjustments through that, and of course through the LCAP supplemental positions. So the goal is to make those and fewer. We're not going to be able to eliminate all the positions, but we shouldn't have to have 10 staff like we did this past year to be at 1.2. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, Trustee Baker or Clerk.
Thank you. And my last question was, has this been taken into account with the later start times? Does that start next fall or does that start after that?
Sorry, that is in effect in 2022, 23. We did talk about that a little bit as a Bell Schedule Committee. And what we decided was this: until school districts start to have discussions together, we talked about in particular athletics. So we're governed by the Peninsula Athletic League. In order for all of us, we need to have a group discussion. So we said we would start talking to our principals and what's called the Board of Managers to have discussions, because we're worried about athletics. And if one district is moving to 8:30 and a later start time and other districts make a decision not to, or if we started earlier, we're gonna have lots of issues in terms of students missing instructional time. So we wanted to have a more global discussion with our 23 other districts, in particular those high school districts that have athletic programs, so we can make those decisions together. So we are aware of it. We just didn't think at this time, because we hadn't heard of other districts making any decisions yet for next year to make a late start time. So that is supposed to go in effect, you're right, in the 2022-23 school year. In fact, Superintendent Moore and I were having a little discussion about that this morning, about later start times.
Great, thank you so much.
All right. Oh, I'm still in my report. Are there other questions?
Yes, President Murray. Mr. Irish, is it possible that you could provide that staff report in writing to the board, just of what you just mentioned right now? I'd like to see some comparison of the various schedules.
Yes, I can do that. I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, President Murray. So back to my report. We all know now that I sent a message out last week on April 7th to our staff and to our families that 6 county superintendents, in collaboration with public health officers in our respective counties, did announce the decision to extend student dismissals from school and modified school operations, including at-home distance learning, through the end of this academic school year. And we have linked the press release that went out on our district website on the front page in our announcement section. And I just wanted to clarify for our community, we recognize that the state superintendent of public instruction and the governor expressed their opinions about possible extensions, but neither issued a formalized or formal statement in regards to that. And so our district really works hard to work in collaboration with our local health departments, because they use data to make decisions. And we will continue to do that with regard to operations of our school districts, reopening, et cetera, when we get to that point in time. It also means for our school district that we will continue our efforts with distance learning and work on enhancing our current at-home learning experiences for our students. We have been providing online professional learning opportunities both last week and this week to assist in further developing our capacity and leveraging technology to support our students in their learning, and we will continue to do so that we can help our staff get acclimated to something that is very different and very new for them. I also wanted to applaud the efforts of our entire school district community. Our staff has risen to the occasion despite challenges that have presented. They are doing their very best to find unique and creative ways to make connections with our students, to ensure continuity of learning. Our Educational Services Department has done amazing work establishing online professional learning resources and supports and training for our staff. In fact, last week they offered over 20 professional learning sessions for our staff, and those were well attended. Our families and our staff alike are working really hard. The staff coming to provide meals, our custodians to help clean and sanitize our facilities. And our families, we recognize you have your own set of challenges trying to manage both work and family responsibilities and teach students while at home. And it is a daunting task. We recognize how challenging this is and this can be. And we just wanted to take a moment and say thank you. And to let you know, we know that it's challenging, but we truly appreciate just the effort that you are putting in. And we are here to continue to refine and improve and enhance what we are doing and the supports that we're providing to our staff in order to provide equitable access and support to all of our students. And lastly, our whole focus as we are engaged in all things related to COVID-19 and distance learning is all about connection, compassion, and care. We really are striving to do our very best to remain connected with all of our students, to demonstrate compassion during these very challenging circumstances that we're in, and to continue to offer love and care to all of our students and our families as we navigate this and provide supports to you who are in need. Our special education teachers and related service providers are certainly working in collaboration with one another to support our families who may need some mental health services. They've also developed a routine remote check-in with our families to ensure continuity of the relationships. We also have our mental health providers, Youth Services Bureau of YMCA, and school safety advocates who will continue to provide support to students on their existing caseloads. And our elementary students are also being provided support by our counseling interns. And we're also considering additional options from our alternative to expulsion facilitator. What are some ways we can utilize her as a resource as well? We just wanted to thank you. We wanted to ask you to hang in there, stay safe, and stay healthy. And then as Vice President Flores mentioned last week, I was invited to participate in the next City Council meeting. We were acknowledged for the great work that we are doing in our district to respond to distance learning and COVID-19. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm putting together my information or our information right now that we can share. So I just wanted to thank the city for the invitation to come and present on the great work that South San Francisco Unified is doing. And at this point, I'd like to introduce and really read for our students our ASB student report. I'll start with Christy Poon, who is the ASB president at South San Francisco High School. Good evening, President Murray, Superintendent Moore, trustees, members of cabinet, and our community. My name is Christy, and I serve as South San Francisco's ASB president for the 1920 school year. I will do my best to give a report on South San Francisco High School. After communicating with administration, the following information was presented. As of right now, school is closed and set to reopen on May 1st, which this was what her previous statement said. We all know that that has been extended. Students are engaged in distance learning through Google Classroom, School Loop, and Zoom. Administration is in the process of securing and loaning out laptops for students who do not have access. Emails have been sent about free or discounted Wi-Fi networks, scholarships, and other things that students need to still be aware of. If students need essential hard copies, the school is open to pick up work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There will also be a document posted on our website with the best ways to contact our teachers and their office hours. South San Francisco High School is working diligently to get into contact with students who have been checking in online by sending emails and calling home. Teachers have also been collaborating and moving to distance learning. Grad night has been canceled and full refunds are in the process of being issued. Additionally, Mr. Asper asked me to share my experience while on distance learning. Personally, I love being at home all the time. Before self-isolation, I would always get back home around 6 or 7 due to after-school activities, volunteering, or work. I overloaded myself with extracurriculars and I didn't realize how much of a toll this took on my body until distance learning started. Though my sleep schedule is not ideal anymore, I like being able to work on things at my own pace. In regards to classes and lectures, it is a bit difficult to keep track of assignments and due dates because multiple platforms are being used. Being an AP student, many of my classes involve a lot of self-teaching. My biggest concern would be the actual exam. Zoom meetings are helpful when necessary. Otherwise, for me, readings, YouTube videos, and worksheets suffice. I cannot necessarily say the same for other students who are missing out on classes that work best with physical activities or labs. As a graduating senior, I am saddened about missing out on the fun part of senior year. I know many others are too. If the condition permits sooner, I would like to ask that the school board push to postpone instead of directly canceling these special activities. I would be quite disappointed to have to miss out on graduation, and I know many seniors feel the same. Thank you, Christy. And the next report is from Amanda Yao, El Camino High School ASB president. El Camino High School ASB has been trying to unite the student body through various virtual spirit events on social media platform, Instagram. We have had a lot of participation from different users and will try to implement a better way to reach out to the rest of the school. Class officers are currently working on a letter that they can send out to their class to end off the school year on a positive note. Because many of the events scheduled for the end of the year had to be canceled or postponed, the class officers would like to send out this letter in hopes that it would instill hope into their classmates. There was a survey sent out for different options the administration gave in regards to senior commencement ceremony. Seniors have responded in a negative way toward having a virtual graduation, but ASB and administration are trying their best to keep a positive outlook on the situation. Other than that, ASB is meeting regularly to discuss plans that we might have for the end of the school year. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Amanda and Christy. Communications. Public comments were submitted through a link beginning at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, April 7th until 3 p.m. on Thursday, April 9th, the original date of this meeting. The comments will be read by the board president or a designee during the meeting. Our clerk, Trustee Baker, will read the comments. The meeting is recorded. Individuals may address the board concerning school business not on the agenda, but public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on the agenda at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the law, the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or in writing at a future time. Trustee Baker?
Thanks. Happy to be your designee. For the record, we do have all the board members have a full copy, or at least access to a full copy of these. I will do a little bit of summary because of the number, though. First message is from Christine about the new school lunch schedule. She says, due to the lunch distribution time, she wasn't able to pick up lunch today, meaning last Wednesday. The line at Westboro Middle School wrapped around the corner all the way to the park. We waited online on Galway for 15 minutes and didn't even get in and had to leave because she had a meeting. Will we please reconsider the pickup times? Henry, who's affiliated with Monteverde and Westboro, says, thank you. We greatly appreciate all educators, administrators, and support staffs for the continuing hard work to keep our kids' education on track during this extraordinary time. Jimena actually didn't leave a message, so Jimena, please write back. Next is no name. It's remote learning during shelter in place. As a parent of 2 children in the SSFUSD system, I would like to express extreme disappointment of how the schools are handling the remote learning. It is not okay for teachers just to send a list of what students should be working on and think they've done their part. Us parents are still working our 8 to 5s or 9 to 6s. It is not fair for teachers to severely cut back hours of instruction and push the teaching duties onto parents. I will echo what other parents sending the kids across all grade levels have shared with me. We are disappointed and the public school system has failed us. Darla, actually the message did not go through, so Darla, please rewrite us. John Goodwin of Colma, graduation and promotion ceremonies, says he asked the trustees to consider having the high school graduations as well as the elementary and middle school promotion ceremonies to be held at some point during the summer. The students need to have this milestone celebrated in their lives, and collectively the school district, parents, and students can make this happen. Melissa, who's a parent, says, although the physical school year is over, I still believe we should celebrate students even if that's in the summer. I've heard that the principal of this school is against the consideration of this. Can parents approach PTA to help plan? She did not specify the school, by the way. T. Chu writes, in light of the current situation, will there be summer school option for my children? As wonderful as their teachers are with distant learning, I feel my children will be behind in the fall. Thank you. Monica White writes, are we moving towards a year-round school format? My husband and I feel that now is the opportunity to change to year-round schooling. Parents dread the long summer break and how long it takes to get children back into the swing of things. With the current pandemic, our children are suffering socially and academically with such a long break from school. Why not get them back to school sooner and move forward with a year-round model? I really hope the school board has already discussed this and is making strides to move in this direction. Margaret, who's the parent of a Monteverde fifth grader, writes about outdoor ed. She says she is extremely saddened to receive the news that outdoor ed for Monteverde is canceled. Though I understand the circumstances in which this decision was reached, I feel it is the district's responsibility to look at all options to postpone this lifetime milestone. We're being asked to be flexible and adjust to the current situation as parents, but feel the district has a responsibility to be flexible too when it comes to these milestones. These fifth graders will never go back to elementary school, nor have the opportunity to do outdoor ed. They fundraised and worked really hard, and now it's gone. I urge you to postpone outdoor ed for Monteverde fifth graders, and as a district, come up with a contingency for a different date. These students deserve outside the box thinking. This one's in Spanish. Trustee Flores, do you have a copy in front of you? Page
Give me a second, I'll have to pull it up.
Sure, it's on page 13. I'll just go past it, and when you're ready, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you.
Cheyenne Lang writes about the school online. She's an essential worker, an ER nurse with 2 kids in different grades, 5th and 7th. She's finding it completely impossible to keep up with assignments. She can't be more than a full-time essential worker plus a full-time teacher during a pandemic. Fortunately, in our household, we are privileged enough that the children's other parent is available to take this on more than I am, but I have great concern that any single parent household or household where both parents are essential workers or both working full-time from home would make this completely untenable. She knows this is a difficult adjustment for everyone, and it does seem that most teachers are trying to be flexible. I know we are limited in what we can do here, but giving tons of assignments is not the same as teaching. I'm having a really hard time with this. I know there are challenges with technology and hope these can be resolved, and there can be more teaching over video, perhaps one-to-one and small group video sessions. Brenda Lee writes about distance learning. Hi, I would like to bring attention to the inconsistencies in online education so far for our elementary school. Some teachers have been offered face-to-face time with their students through Google Meet or Zoom. These teachers have been doing it daily for at least a few times a week, while some other teachers that may not be as technically proficient have not been offering this basic educational tool. I think it is unfair that distance learning has been so inconsistent for the children. Education should be not be dependent on who their teacher is. All children in the same grade should get the same education, whether distance or not. All children should get the same amount of face time with their teachers. There are only a few weeks before summer vacation. Something needs to be done quickly so that all the teachers get the training they need to connect with their students virtually. Jocelyn also writes about distance learning. She says she's concerned with how much online work her 6th grade daughter is receiving. She goes to Westboro. It is something new for everyone in the household, not only the child. I appreciate the teachers sending videos along with the assignments, but if I'm being honest, it's not the same as being inside a classroom. Therefore, I feel the amount of work that needs to be done is completely overwhelming for the child and the parents. She gets notifications from the online learning apps and receive about 10 emails a day from a total of 6 different teachers. Truth be told, it gives her anxiety, and so she can't imagine how much anxiety that gives the children. Mental health matters as well, not just making sure the children finish their schoolwork. Some parents work in healthcare and required to work, since she understands that teachers want all the work done. It's easy to send out assignments and video. It's not easy for parents and children to keep up with it, especially with the Common Core. It is almost completely different from what us parents were taught. So we are now teaching ourselves to be able to teach our children. I hope there's something put in place for this. Sarah Walsh from Colma is a Believe in El Camino student. She's asking why are senior events being canceled rather than postponed when hundreds of students petitioned for postponements. To my knowledge, only parents were allowed to have a voice on this topic when it has no effect on their lives. Students will have to live knowing they were robbed of their graduation, grad night, and other senior activities. We went through 4 years of high school just to be told we won't even get the opportunity to graduate in front of our peers. Thank you for using your authority to take away every last thing that students had to look forward to in their final months of high school. I suspect that's a sarcastic comment. I suggest that Sarah listen in the rest of the meeting. We'll be talking about that later. Etsuko from Monteverde has a suggestion about distance education. She says the level and quality and frequency of student-teacher interactions are very different and inconsistent among teachers. For example, some teachers have online sessions once a week, some have 3 times a week, some have them every day, and some don't have it all. I believe that the quality of education, especially in the same grade in school, should be equal, so all the teachers in each grade should have the same volume of online education. That inconsistency in approach does not seem to be fair. And on the next, Amanda, who's a parent at both Alta Loma and Ponderosa, has 2 questions regarding communication of academic expectations and grading policy. She writes, there seems to be a lot of confusion regarding academic expectations, and students and parents are, quite understandably, feeling stressed as a consequence. In some cases, information is being provided directly to students is not being consistently shared with the parents. For example, school loop messages going to students only, communication through Google Classroom, etc. Is there any plan to hold parent orientations to improve communication between the schools and families? Also, does the district have a policy or philosophy on grading expectations given the current distance learning situation? How will these be rolled out across the district? Many students will have implemented a policy that many districts have implemented a policy that grades can only be improved by participation submission of assignments. Will South City School District consider something similar? I think the answer is already yes, but please, Amanda, listen on. Juliana, who's a parent of a child in the district, writes, I'd like to know why a uniform policy has not been implemented across the board in the district for teachers to use Zoom or some other type of virtual class. Some schools are doing this, but Westboro has not. It is imperative that this happen. Homeschooling children and trying to maintain a job working remotely is very challenging. I shouldn't have to be at risk for losing my job because I'm spending hours a day teaching my child. I realize this is a novel situation. However, the teachers would have to be teaching in class if we were not sheltering in place, so there is no reason why some sort of virtual or video type learning could not be implemented at Westboro. I've talked to a few teachers and the principal, and I'm not satisfied with the lack of uniformity. If other schools are doing this successfully, there's no reason why Westboro cannot get on board quickly. We can do better than this. The kids are going to suffer and not be prepared for the next grade if things continue like this. Please consider requiring virtual classes. Otherwise, many parents, including myself, are at risk for losing their job for inefficiency of remote work because we're spending time teaching our kids. Gina, who's the parent of a South City High student, says, what are ways to keep students motivated at distance learning? Also, it would help if teachers would communicate to students that school is still in session and the expectation is that classwork and homework is required versus when they can get to it when they have time. Thank you. Carissa from Monteverde also writes about outdoor ed. Thank you to everyone in the district for your hard work in supporting the students and their learning during this time. Outdoor ed is a week of unique learning and an experience that creates lifelong memories. Students anticipate the trip for many years, fundraise for the trip, and are excited when they get the week-long adventure as a 5th grader. Monteverde was scheduled to go in May. It may not be a top priority today, but I'd like there to be consideration on how to reschedule the week of outdoor ed for any schools that were not able to attend this year. Marta, who's an adult education teacher with our district, says she has comments pertaining to her retirement on the agenda, but she does not leave specific comments. Marta, we thank you for your service. We'd like to hear from you. Marta, for some of you who may not know, was also a trustee on the Jefferson School District a few years back. And that's the end of my comments. Trustee Flores, did you find that one?
Yes, thank you. The comment is in Spanish. It was submitted by Nurilem Jimenez. The subject is extender las clases hasta el verano, extend classes into summer. I'll read it in Spanish as well as in English. Hola, estamos pasando por tiempos nunca antes vistos y la mayoría estamos viendo afectados de diferentes maneras. La salud como la educación son muy importantes. Es por eso que tomo la libertad de opinar que el ciclo escolar se extendió hasta el verano como hacen en otros estados donde hay snow day, no clases, para que nuestros hijos estén capacitados para el siguiente año escolar, o por lo menos que tengan un test para ver si están listos para continuar siguiente año. Favor de tomar en cuenta. Muchas gracias, Nurilem Jiménez, padre de alumno de Spruce Elementary. The comment said, we are going through times never seen before, and most of us are being affected in different ways. Health and education are very important. That's why I take the liberty of saying that the school year should be extended until the summer, as they do in other states where there's snow day, no classes, so that our children are trained for the following year, or at least they have a test to see if they are ready to continue on to next year. Please consider. Thank you so much, Nurlan Jimenez, parent of student at Spruce Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. The following items are submitted for board approval. One motion will authorize action for those items so designated. So we already have one being pulled for the fundraisers, N3F. Trustee Richardson, which one do you want pulled? Trustee Richardson?
You're on mute, Trustee Richardson.
Huh? Oh,
Sorry. Can you hear me?
that's okay.
Okay.
So, yes.
I spoke. Hello. I just wanted to say that the item that I wanted pulled or repaired or fixed is going to be. So I withdraw my request, but I had something on the business services. Is that part of the?
Okay, so that would be
consent?
3. That's 3. What?
Mhm. Basically, I wanted to ask about some of the new, as a result of the shutdown, how much of these items are we not going to see anymore in the warrant registers and
Okay, so which ones do you want me to pull? Then we'll approve everything else. Then we'll circle back and you can ask questions about what you want to ask questions about.
okay.
So you want everything except A and B? Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
A and B?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus N3F and 3A and B?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
We have to do a roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Roll call vote?
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
yes.
vice president Flores,
Yes.
president Murray.
Aye. Okay, trustee Richardson, you have a question about 3A and B?
Yes, I noticed that there are in the list that we received, there are charges for the Bronstein music and other items, for example, for purchases in science. As a result of the change to distant learning, are we going to stop these accounts, and are students going to be able to are we no longer going to see these charges before the board? Mr. O.
Yeah, hi, it's trustee
I'm
Richardson. Yeah,
I'm just talking in general, because I did see these charges up for us. And I just had a question about that. Now that we have distance learning, I wanted to know if some of these big charges or will not be, we will not be seeing them as a board.
yeah, these charges are for the month of February. So, it depends on the items because each site has their own individual discretionary budgets and different, like Title I categorical budgets and other different.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what they have available, because certain funds, for example, like categorical funds like Title I, Title II, they cannot carry over, for example, Title I over more than 50% into the next year. So they would need to somehow spend the funds in the current year for the current students. So they could be, Tuesday, they could be priced other things like maybe computers or other items that they need for the students at this year to use some of the funds.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't get it. You were breaking up. And if you think you can't, I don't know if you're, because it's where you're at. I try to move around a little bit, the computer, but I couldn't quite get all of the information, but I was just concerned because of the things that I see here before the board, and a future item that we're going to be discussing in the next items, I probably.
Okay. It really depends because each site is unique, so they have different spending patterns.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just didn't get any, and I couldn't hear them.
Yeah, sorry about that. Not sure what's happening.
Okay. Trustee Richardson,
Yes.
are you okay with what you heard? These are items that date back to February.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So
That's fine. Thank you.
Trustee Baker,
I'd like to move 3A and 3B, please.
I'll second.
all in favor, roll call?
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
Yes.
Vice President Flores,
Yes.
President Marie.
Aye. Okay, so moving on to information discussion. So the first thing is administration, COVID-19 and distance learning updates.
Thank you, President Murray. I am going to share my screen with the board and community. Okay, so first, just as a reminder to all of us, this is a journey and we are navigating it as best as we possibly can and trying to make decisions as expeditiously as we can, but also really being mindful of the impacts it's having on our students and their families. And so we hear the concerns that you have shared. Many of you talked about the inconsistencies, and we are working as diligently as we can with all of our site leaders who are then working with all of our educators to make sure that we can do our very best to have some consistency across grade spans in our school district. So I just wanted to start with that. I'm going to provide you with just a couple of updates, and each cabinet member has a respective area that they oversee, and they too will be giving some updates for you this evening, and then we'll certainly open it up to our Board of Trustees for questions. So what are our main priorities and really values during this unprecedented time? So first, we're really doing our best to keep the needs of our students, our staff, and our families at the center of our work. This includes considering the impact that this virus has had in their lives, as well as their health and welfare. And it's a reminder for us to see our students as people first, and then we can focus on the academics. So you heard CTA President Yano talk about this whole community of care and taking care of the student. And so, as you know, in our district, we have a lens of equity. So we're really striving to give kids what they need when they need it in order to be successful. We are also navigating this unprecedented situation, as I shared earlier, with compassion, empathy, and care for all involved. We know it's very challenging. It's challenging for us as well, but we certainly are committed to doing what we can to support all of our families and all of our staff. Another priority for us and what's really of great value is maintaining essential services for our students and our community, and to maintain positive and productive relationships with our union leadership, but also with all of our staff. It's really important that we come together collectively and work through some of the challenges that we've experienced and keep the lines of communication open and transparent and honest. And then, of course, we're focused on strengthening our at-home learning efforts and seeking consistency and support for both our students and our families and our staff. And then we're trying to do our best to remain intentional and methodical in making decisions. And so specific to grading and graduation, we are moving very methodically because there's a lot of information to review and to take into consideration before we make a decision. And we want to do so knowing that we have engaged our community and really thought through it in a way that is meaningful.
Can I interrupt for 2 seconds?
Absolutely.
Can all of the board members and cabinet please mute your computers while we're listening to the presentation? Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
President
thank
Murray.
you.
And so I'll take the slide where we're talking about communication and engagement efforts. And so we are using weekly communications to our families, which may be in the form of email blasts, phone calls, posting it on Peach Jar. The schools are also sharing information through their normal communication channels. And we are posting it to our website as well in both English and Spanish, and printing out hard copies for families who may not have access. We're sharing information at board meetings and inviting the public to participate and provide public comment on the agenda items. We, at the district office level, we have daily meetings with our team to discuss and strategize new challenges or ways we can work together to resolve some of the challenges that have been brought to our attention. We also have bi-weekly meetings with our site leaders. That way we can work together on coming up with a consistent way to address the concerns related to COVID-19, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. We have, I participate in weekly and oftentimes daily meetings with our county superintendent, as well as all superintendents in the San Mateo County, to get a more global look at what's happening in other districts. And what I can say is we all are experiencing similar challenges. We all are in this together, and we all have a genuine care and desire to work collaboratively to trying to resolve any of the concerns that are being shared. I also participate in check-in meetings with larger school district superintendents just to get a feel for what's happening in their school district and any potential impacts or implications that may come from our school district. And of course, it's important that we are eliciting feedback from our administrators, that we're engaging them in the conversation, and that we are establishing some expectations about how they can also engage their staff and their community. So please continue to be patient with us. We are training as often as possible for our staff so that we can quickly come up to speed to know what unique and creative ways we can continue to engage our community. And we will continue to do that so that we can make the connection with all of you. And we're also here to navigate the situation and help our community with any questions or concerns that you may have. I'll now allow Dr. Spalding to share just where we are with MOU updates and working collaboratively with our unions and our staff, and where we are with recruitment. We still have operational business to focus on, and so we haven't lost sight of that either. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Spalding.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore. For the community once again, Jay Spalding, I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Just an update from the Human Resources Department. We do have memorandums of understanding with our 3 bargaining groups, our CTA, our Adult Federation, AFT for our adult teachers, as well as CSEA on this situation with COVID-19. It's only during this shelter in place. So we do have memorandums of understanding with our groups, and I want to thank their leaders in those groups of making this work for all of us, for our students and our staff. For recruitment, this is our busy time in the hiring season, and majority of, I think, the job fairs have been canceled. We were able to attend 2 job fairs. I will also be attending 2 virtual job fairs that we started last year also. Right now, we currently have 71 certificated vacancies. This is not including some of the LCAP positions that I talked with Director Irish about today, that we'll be posting those. As of last week, we had hired 18 certificated staff back out of the 71. Of the 71, there are some temporary positions that we'll be hiring back as well, which is about 25. So we are actively interviewing through virtual platforms such as Zoom and Google. And so we brought in a few more candidates today that offered them positions. We also have some current classified vacancies, 34. We're trying to hire essential staff such as plumbers, electricians, and custodians. but we're holding off right now on our paraprofessional vacancies. We have a majority of vacancies in paraprofessionals. Those are positions that work with students individually with social distancing, with COVID-19, shelter in place. Right now, it'd be difficult to get those people in. And probably one of the more difficult thing is trying to get staff fingerprinted, bring them on board, because where we use fingerprinting through UPS, they no longer are doing that. So we're trying to find a third-party vendor on that. I can't see anything below that, Dr. Moore, on the screen. Is there another bullet point? I can't see if there
No,
is.
you captured it. The last one was a holding off on para
Perfect.
vacancies.
All
Thank
right.
you, Dr. Spalding.
Welcome.
Mr. Irish, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, members of the board, community. So as we heard in our comments, public comments section earlier, plus through direct communication with our teachers, our site leaders, there's a couple areas that we need to continue to work together to solve some of these inconsistencies. One, we're working with each school site to finalize their overall distance learning plan on how they're going to actually communicate to their students and to their parents and to their communities. So they need to share the schedules if they have them, promote office hours of each teacher. One of the big things that we are working on this week through our staff meetings and grade level team meetings is working on setting clear limits on number of hours of work for each student by either grade level and or subject class for students. So giving a total amount of hours that can be assigned to a student by subject area and or grade level. So parents and students can effectively schedule and plan their day. We're hearing lots of inconsistency about how much work is being assigned. So we're working on that. And then we heard earlier, we're working on setting clear expectations for teachers. We heard previously about some comments from the public and our parents about inconsistencies versus synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, number of virtual meetings. So we're working together. CTA President Yano said it very astutely and clearly earlier. All of our teachers, just like our students, learn at different places. Digital literacy is an area of growth for both students and our staff, and Ed Services is working with our staff to help them feel more comfortable. We are continuing to work with our students because we have to remember this is new for our students as well. So our first priority during this initial phase of distance learning is ensuring that all our families and students have an actual tech device and internet access. So our staff, our site leaders, our teachers, our technology staff have been working tirelessly to ensure that we are distributing tech devices, laptops, Chromebooks to families that need it and or hotspots. At this time, we've given numerous hotspots out. We can go to the next slide, Dr. Moore. Thank you. So another big topic that we've heard a lot of comments about, and rightfully so, is about promotion and graduation events. So I want to just start by saying that we in Ed Services, we as a cabinet, we as a district know how important promotion and graduation events are. So we are taking a very methodical process to gather input. So I just wanted to share what we've done thus far. And parents of 5th graders, 8th graders, and seniors are going to receive, if they already haven't, a survey around graduation events and or promotion events in English and Spanish. They will get that from their site leader either today or tomorrow. We sent out, all of our schools are communicating directly to those 5th grade families, parents, 8th grade families and parents, and 12th grades. And also for 8th and 12th grade students, we're asking our school sites to share the survey to get input directly from our students. So I wanted to say that first. But in the meantime, Ed Services is working on researching various possibilities for our promotion/graduation events. So we've looked into what's called a virtual graduation. It's very new. as folks can probably imagine. So some of the companies that we're looking at, and they're putting proposals together as we speak, are Herff Jones and Jostens. Jostens is our graduation provider. So they're working on a platform. If school districts want to look at the virtual route, we've contacted Vigo Pictures, which is an organization in Southern California that does virtual graduation. And I'm working on some others. All we're doing right now, there has been no decision put in place. We're just gathering information, costs, what that would look like. And we're awaiting the survey results from the graduation and promotion survey that was sent out either today and or tomorrow. The deadline for parents and students to complete that is Monday, April 20th. So we're going to get input, and then we will share that information with the public and what the actual decision is in the very near future. In terms of grading, so what you see here is a potential proposal, but I want to stop and just talk a little bit about process. So we heard previously from comments from parents and students that they're concerned and there's apprehension and anxiety around grading. So right now, what the district is doing is, you heard Superintendent Moore, she is in daily meetings with the other 22 county superintendents. Members of Ed Services also participate in what we call job-alike meetings, where our focus in Ed Services has been around grading. So districts are sharing grading practices and policies throughout the state and nationally. We've been looking at guidance that we recently received from the University of California system, the California State University system, and the California Department of Education. We've engaged this morning with CTA, which is our membership, our leadership at the secondary level, and I'll be meeting virtually on Thursday with our vice president and other members of the CTA leadership team to get input on grading at the elementary level. After those two meetings occur this week, Ed Services will send out a grading survey to all K-12 certificated members asking for input. Right now, with the information that we have at the secondary level, we're contemplating and recommending, possibly, again, pending the survey, more discussion on basically using a hybrid approach. So the proposal would be at the secondary level, letter grades A, B, C, pass, and no mark. The reason for this is when you look at guidance from the UC and CSU, they have changed their admissions policies for this semester, the spring semester, winter semester, and summer semester of 2020, where they will acknowledge and count if school districts move to a credit, no credit, or a pass, no mark. The UC and CSU system will still recognize that as meeting A through G requirements if they earn a pass or a credit. South San Francisco Unified District's recommending a hybrid of actual honoring students that earned an A, B, or C, so they could get that calculated in their GPA. And also knowing that this COVID-19 pandemic is impacting students disproportionately and our families disproportionately, that we would then suggest either giving a passing mark or a no mark, so no student would then fail. This has to go through a process where we get input from our board, we get input from our staff before we would make suggested changes at an upcoming board meeting on the actual board policy and administrative regulation. So we're still in the infancy stage of gathering all the information, communicating it with our staff, and then making a recommendation. But right now, that's where we are at secondary. At the elementary level, we'd be recommending what we would call a narrative, basically having our elementary staff providing guidance regarding progress that students have made individually in areas that they would need to have to deepen in terms of their skills or content that might impact placement for the future. So going to get more input from elementary and secondary before we make a final recommendation. I think that's it.
Now I will turn it over to Mr. O, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Can you guys hear me better? I moved to another location.
Yes,
Better?
much
Okay,
better.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so what you look at here is the district's meal distribution plans or schedule that the district staff submitted to CDE to make sure that it were in compliance with their requirements. Ms. DeBose, our Director of Nutritional Services, worked on this together with CDE, and this is the final meal distribution plan that was approved by the California Department of Education. So the plan calls for meals to be served every Mondays and Wednesdays. The 3 schools are Spruce Elementary School, Westboro Middle School, and El Camino High School. The agreed upon time is from 12 p.m. to 12:45 p.m. But as long as the parent gets to the parking lot by 12:45, we're gonna still provide a meal to the family. So we're not gonna turn away anybody. So as long as they get there by 12:45. Regardless, and then so there was some concern, I guess some confusion whether kids need to be present in order to parents to pick up the meals. So I just want to take some time to clarify that. So on March 25th, 2020, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, issued COVID-19, which is the Child Nutrition Response Number 5, national waiver to allow parents and guardians to pick up meals for children. So this waiver is effective immediately and remains in effect until June 30th, 2020, or until the expiration of the federally declared public health emergency, whichever is earlier. So however, the waiver is not mandatory. So it's not the law. So the district has the option either to participate or not, but based on the needs of the district and how they can meet the requirements of the California Department of Education. So that's why we had to submit a plan to them so they can approve it. So, and like I said, to participate in this waiver, the district must have a plan in place to address 2 very important items. So district must have a written plan to ensure that they're able to maintain accountability and program integrity. And the other very difficult requirement to meet is that district must have a process in place to ensure that meals are distributed only to parents or guardians of eligible children, and that duplicate meals are not distributed to any child. So basically, a parent cannot be able to go to multiple sites to get meals at the same day for each child. So that's a very tough one to meet. So so the district work with CDE, and we're not going to participate in the this waiver because it's very difficult to meet the second part of the requirement. But in order to be able to serve 2 days per week, we also have to put in some requirements, which is the California Department of Education has to approve. And that part is basically we had to shorten the time to ensure that that students are not getting duplicate meals, basically, allowing sufficient time for parents to go to multiple sites to be able to get the meals. So that's what was approved by the California Department of Education. So I just want to clarify that. And also, some districts, they have an option to either participate or not. And some districts are taking a chance by not getting their plan approved by CDE and going ahead with that and not requiring students to be present. But, they are taking a chance, and, they could basically, if they get audited, if they don't provide the proof, they could basically, the state could disapprove their funding for each meal that they serve. So for our district, it's a pretty significant amount for our district. For 1 week, if they disapprove, we will lose about $31,000 per week. So that is pretty significant. So we don't want to take the risk to, and not have the students present and not meet the requirements. So that's why we made sure that we have the CDE's approval before we move forward with this plan. So I just want to clarify that. And also, President Murray also mentioned there was a concern on one of the communication earlier regarding a parent about the not able to pick up the lunch, I guess last week. So I just want to clarify because she mentioned, I guess her name is Christine, who mentioned that, you know, she waited for 15 minutes but didn't didn't even get into Westboro Boulevard. So I just want to clarify that. So we do have a very good process in place, a very efficient process in place right now. And what we're learning is that there is a long line. We recognize that, but it's not because it's, you know, the system is slow or inefficient. It's because we've been getting parents getting to the line very early before the start time at 12 o'clock. So for example, at Westboro, you know, we had cars that arrive around 11:15. By 11:30, we already have over 20 vehicles out toward the Westboro Boulevard. And then by 12 o'clock, another half hour later, it was down the block. So there was a lot of people arriving early. So this is similar to, like, if you go to Costco, before they open, you see a long line of parents or people holding, you know, with their shopping cart waiting for the store to open. This is very similar. So we were very efficient. We actually knocked out an average of 6 to 7 students per minute. So, and we served 365 meals, both breakfast and 365 lunches that day. So we did serve a lot of meals, and it's the most we did so far, you know, at Westboro. So the process is very efficient. We finished before 1 o'clock, you know, so we were able to serve everybody by the time the time expires. So I just want to add that also to the report. So the next thing is the facilities update. So that one, basically our wonderful custodians, you know, they cleaned and disinfected the entire all school sites in the district office during the spring break. So everybody that came back, you know, they came back to a clean working environment. So to comply with the shelter in place starting in April 2020, the custodians, we put them on a limited schedule. So that way, you know, just to make sure that they comply with the shelter in place. And so they work now Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's basically on Tuesday, Thursday to open and close the school. And then on Wednesday to work on, you know, other things, the custodial duties when no one is present. So they're they're doing a lot of cleanup, making sure the environment is safe and disinfected. Okay, so that's our facilities and technology. So we want to provide an update on the distribution plan. So we started with the information gathering, and you know, so Mr. Irish and Mr. Siam, our director of technology, worked together to put out surveys to parents and staff to see who needed the equipment and internet access. And also the site principal also reached out to parents, families and as well, and staff as well. And then all the information is gathered, and then Mr. Siam reviews them to see what is needed, what kind of equipment is needed. So one of the items needed is the hotspot or the internet access. So based on the preliminary results of the survey, Mr. Siam ordered about 500 hotspots, which was mentioned earlier from T-Mobile. He was able to sign up a 1-year service plan, about $20 per month for each hotspot with unlimited high-speed data, which is actually a very good deal for high speed. And the total cost would be about $120,000 per year. And Mr. Siam worked, you know, over the weekend to tag and also inventory all the hotspots. So we were able to give it all out, you know, on Tuesday when the school opened up from 9 to 2 on the last Tuesday. So right now we're learning that we need additional hotspots, and Mr. Siam is working with the sites to see how many they need so we can get the additional hotspots. In terms of computers, the district has provided existing Chromebooks and other devices from the school campus to students. Loaner laptops and other devices were provided to site staff to enable them to provide distant learning support to students from home. So that's basically for the computers. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. O. Before we open it up to questions from the board, I wanted to give Mr. Irish just a few brief moments to share one final update, and then we'll open it up to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. I neglected to mentioned when I started the presentation on the slide of events, graduation and promotion events. I wanted to communicate to the public regarding events in May. Unfortunately, due to the shelter in place, we are going to need to start canceling May events. In particular, at the high school level, around our proms. So I want to inform the public that this was going to happen. You will receive an email very shortly around the refund process from your site principal if your student attends one of our high schools in the district and was planning to go to prom. So we apologize that some of these lifetime events are being canceled. We are still looking at viable options for graduation and promotion, but prom, we've already postponed. I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to open it up to comments or questions, commendations or concerns from the board.
Well, commendations. Thank you, everybody, for your very thorough reports. And I'm sure that it brings a lot of ease to the minds of our community members. Does anybody have any questions? Raise of a hand. Trustee.
Yes, we have Trustee Baker
Richardson.
and Trustee Lujan.
Okay. How about Trustee Baker? We'll start with you.
I'm going to defer to Trustee Lujan since I was first on the last couple.
Okay, Trustee Lujan.
Well, that was very kind of you because your hand was up first. But thank you, Trustee Baker. So first, I just really wanted to commend staff and thank you. Really, the plans that you have shared demonstrate, one, a goal of consistency across the board and strategic responses as we consider process, as well as still continuing to work on gathering community input. From the parent side, I'm with you. I am a parent. I have a second grader at home. So every parent out there, yes, this is challenging. For every staff member out there, yes, this is challenging. We are learning as we are building the plane and flying it all at the same time. And so for staff and every staff member out there, for every educator out there, for every parent out there, for every student out there, I just want to thank you. This is a journey. It is unprecedented, and I just want to thank you first. And I want to recognize Cabinet for the strategic response in it. I know these days, for me, there are times that I'm trying to do 20 things at the same time. And at the end of the day, I realize I have 20 half-finished tasks because I've gotten myself distracted, and focus is critical. So I really want to commend the strategic response. Yes, graduation is a burning fire, and how do we get distance learning going is a burning fire, and grading, and how do we get all that worked out, and how do we serve lunches? All of those are burning fires, and I really want to honor and commend you for being strategic and saying, okay, we can only address one challenge at a time, and if we address it well, then we don't have to come back and try and readdress it. I'm impressed and continually floored by the number of lunches and breakfasts we are serving. I just do want to, I am curious about, how do we serve as many as we possibly can in the short amount of time? And then also, how do we monitor the lines to make sure that people who are waiting in line don't get overly aggressive? Because I also don't want a staff member to try and serve a lunch to a parent who's aggressive and angry and frustrated because they got stuck in line. So I was just wondering if that's something we can consider to help make sure parents don't get overly frustrated. We're already stressed, because I don't want staff to get blasted by a frustrated parent. So just want to, I know that the answer can't come tonight, but I just kind of want to put that out there as a consideration.
Thank you. Trustee Richardson.
Mr. O, and for your organization of the lunch meal. There are very grateful parents. We hear stories about how people are possibly getting more meals, but honestly, I it's not that big a deal to me. I know might be overly generous, but I know the longer this thing goes on, the children need to be fed, and even if you give it to the parents too. Anyway, I had a question thank you to Mr. Irish about his report about the virtual graduation. Do we have an idea what we're talking about? I have no idea what a virtual graduation is. And at which point is the board going to know? Honestly, I don't even want to think about it. I do hope that we are able to open it up so that parents can watch their children walk the stage and receive whatever promotion and graduation diploma. All those things are just timeless. And how will they have their reunions if they don't do this? See, so it's a unique moment, but do you have information yet to share with us about the type of virtual presentation for these types of this event?
Yes, trustee. So really quick, because this could be a 15, 20 minute. I'll just give you the short version. Basically, it's streamed. It's a pre-recorded comprises of an opening of key events from a school's year. So that might be sporting events, band events that are all merged together by a professional company, stage clip and or marching order if we went with Herf Jones, or Vigo Pictures if we used an outside agency. And again, we're looking at a couple others. In terms of pre-recorded presentations are from our band, from our choir. We would then be allowed up to 5 guest speakers. So the principal, valedictorian, salutatorian, class speaker, and a couple others, if we chose to. All those speeches would be pre-recorded, 5 minutes or less. For the students, in terms of actual graduation, each student, if we decided, and again, I want to stress that we have not decided to go to a virtual graduation, but if we did decide to go to a virtual graduation, every potential graduate would get an email with a link. He or she, with his parents' assistance, would type their name onto a form, upload a still photo of themselves in a cap and gown, be able to type in a quote, and or put in a 15-second video. Then they would submit that. This company then would, I'll say it nicely, merge all the graduates' actual clips all together in alphabetical order. They would also do the announcing of all the students' names. This would be shown all put together and would be have a link. It would be through YouTube Premium or some sort of Zoom or some sort of virtual platform that would be shared with parents, students, and family members throughout, obviously, the country, world, state. We could shorten it down if we wanted to, but that's what it would look like. It is not the same thing. Parents and students obviously would have to congregate, obviously social distancing, but at their house, apartment, so on and so forth. There would be nothing live, and we'd have to figure out what's the best way to distribute diplomas. We probably mailed them, to be perfectly honest, if we were still in that. So that's the shortened version, but to be perfectly honest with you, 2 companies that we're looking at, Jostens and Herf Jones, are putting this together and partnering with agencies and organizations as we go. Because this is new for them as well. They're not in the virtual graduation business. Of course, they want, just like all of our families want, students want it to be in person. So it's the graduation survey today and tomorrow. So we'll get input from the community.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because it just sounds, I know Jostens is a ring company. I mean, they've been out there forever, but I just wondering if these are fly-by-night things that are just going to come in and take, advantage of the moment. And
So what I will say, and then I'll stop. Marching Order and Stage Clip, the 2 companies that have partnered with Herf Jones, both do this for colleges. So colleges that graduate online and do distance learning, marching clip and stage or marching order and stage clip have been doing these virtual graduations for 15 and 17 years respectively. Herb Jones is not going to, if we decided to go virtual and we partnered with them, they don't really have anything to do in terms of the graduation setup besides us getting the disposable gown from them. Possibly it would all be working with these two other organizations. So that's why we looked at a potential company that has some experience in this, but Vigo Pictures is brand new. This is their first time. Most companies that we're going to see, this is pretty new.
Trustee Baker?
Thank you. And along with the commendations, I would like to commend both everyone on this call, but all of our workers who are coming in to help, our teachers who are going and going online and learning a new process themselves, the food service workers who are packing lunches, the office workers who are coming in 2 days a week, and I'm sure some of them are nervous about that. So thank you to everyone in our district who is coming in. Mr. Irish, going back to the virtual graduations, judging by the emails, the social media, and the comments that we're hearing in the public, I'm guessing that virtual graduation won't be very popular. So I do hope that we are really putting together a good contingency plan for a way to honor our graduates and promotees within the district. If it's late in the summer, great, but if we have to have everyone back on the Saturday during Thanksgiving break, I'd really like to see if we can make the effort to have a real in-person handing off of promotion certificates or diplomas, if possible, or at least we have a contingency for that. Thank you for your explanation of the grading issues. I know there was a really robust discussion at the PTA council meeting the other night. Personally, I'd like to see the pass be, for the C's and D's, because that's usually more what you see in a college. Regarding the meal times, Mr. Rowe, your explanation is good. It does make sense. I know why we're doing this, but I do think that the very brief amount of time that we're doing this is cutting down on our numbers. I did several meal handouts over the last few weeks, not since we went to the only 45-minute period though, but I do know that we would have people coming in for the entire 2-hour period we were open. I was a customer at El Camino on the first day of the 45 minutes, and the line was down to the 7-Eleven there on Mission. And yes, I understand people are lining up ahead of time, but also when you only have 45 minutes and you're going to line up ahead of time to ensure you get one. I know about the, we're trying to have the kids in the car to prove that, these are for kids. And that we run a risk of a state audit. But I can also tell you that politically, I doubt the state would do such an audit right now because it would look really bad. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not recommending policy, but I do think we need to find some way of having the meal times more than 45 minutes. I understand that there are reports of some people abusing the process, but I don't think it's for a black market and reselling these burritos that are marked as fit for institutional consumption. It's there because people are desperate and they're trying to find a way. So if we can find some means, someone briefly suggested, looking at student IDs, but then I realized that elementary schools don't get IDs, and of course we are serving all children, including children that are in preschool and toddlers, so they wouldn't have such IDs anyway. So I'm just making a heartfelt plea that if we see the numbers dip because of this 45-minute distribution, that we please consider a way to extend the time, even with some minor risk of state intervention. And that's really all I have right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to clarify. Actually, this past Wednesday, we served the most meals of all the weeks that we've been doing the meals. And what helped made it move quicker is we actually added additional staff to the distribution. So by having, instead of 1-2 people doing one call at a time, we have like 4 staff. So two calls are serviced at one time. So it's moving actually much quicker, and we're able to knock out, all the calls that come through. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if they come and make it to the parking lot within the 45 minutes, we're still going to keep serving all the rest of the people that made it to the school. So we're not going to turn anybody away. So it's like the last Wednesday, we actually finished serving close to about 1 o'clock. So, so we did take care of everybody that came by.
Well, yeah, and I understand we probably gave out the most meals on Wednesday. Remember, because Monday was a holiday, we were giving out 5 meals on Wednesday. Well, actually 10 meals because of breakfast and lunch. Maybe if there's some other way to track it, I've got suggestions like, if you have someone put a license plate into a Google spreadsheet and then, see if there's any repeat offenders or something. Now, I do understand why you're doing it, Mr. O. I understand, but again, I'm really thinking that in terms of students served rather than meals, we might see our numbers drop. Whereas they've been consistently going up since we went into shelter in place a few weeks ago. But thank you, Ted.
Trustee Flores? Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say that, yeah, we'll keep an eye on the number. If things start to drop, then we'll, maybe look at revising a plan to get CD's approval. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Flores?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, I want to make sure that those that are tuning in or talking, texting on social media, etc., I want to make sure that everyone, including students, understand what has been said so far, even though Mr. Irish was very kind in detailing out an online type of graduation. But I want to make it clear that no decision has been reached on what form of graduation or promotions are going to take place here in South San Francisco Unified. Having said that, because I am a data guy and I love research methodology, I really want to ask a few questions about this survey, which is, I think, where the public, parents, students really can focus their energy and provide the feedback that we as a board need. We have heard it already in numerous social media forums and petitions, etc. But I want everyone to really make an effort, and I'm putting this out there, to share the link, repost the link, especially with seniors, especially with 5th graders, 8th graders. If you really want your voice heard, don't post about it on Facebook, don't post about it on social media. Make sure that you fill out this survey, and this communicates what you're really trying to envision, what your ideas and opinions are. So having said that, Mr. Irish, I wanted to first, I spoke with, in our earlier meeting today with Dr. Moore, and I wanted to request that we provide hard copies at the sites of these surveys so that those individuals that don't have access to technology or a means of being able to fill it out electronically are able to get their feedback and provide their input. So if we can please have that made available. Number 2, you said April 20th is the deadline that you're getting the information. Is that correct, Mr. Irish?
Yes, I already have, just so you're aware, VP Flores, we sent it out. Again, not all schools sent it out today. I have over 300 responses in less than half of a day.
Terrific, terrific. And that's what we want to make sure that we get the feedback and the input. So I'm calling out on site leaders, particularly the high school principals, to make sure that this goes out to all students, all clubs, through ASB, etc., so that we can hear this and we can disseminate. I don't want to get super granular, but I want to make sure that the questions are guided appropriately. I haven't gotten a chance, neither has the board, I think, an opportunity to see this survey. So I want to make sure that the questions are open-ended and are not specific to one particular opinion or decision that we're trying to be biased towards. So I don't know, again, not having seen the format of the survey, but if you could please share that with the board, I appreciate it as well, or the link, whichever is easiest. In regards to the grading, and again, I want to preface echoing my colleagues in giving 1,000 kudos, million kudos to every single hardworking individual staff member throughout our district, and not only them, but the families of them, you know, because as a family of a custodian, as a classified, as a cafeteria worker, as a nutritional services worker, you're also concerned for your safety, knowing that your loved one is out there helping others. So I want to recognize that first and foremost, because the families also are big part of this process too. So I want to recognize that. In regards to grades, I really want to make sure that I understand the process of why we're looking at the letter grades or the high. I get that we're trying to do a hybrid, but I want to make more emphasis on why the A, B, and C. In my personal opinion, and I don't want to speak for the board or anyone, I want to make sure that we are addressing the demographic that South San Francisco represents, and particularly within our high schools, right? And that is the marginalized needs of students, socio-demographic. We understand what that looks like. And research shows, as many of us know, that grades during this time are not in their favor, are not in the favor of those individuals that we represent in our district. I'm not talking about Greater San Mateo County or Palo Alto or Jefferson Unified Union. I'm talking about here, what we represent, the communities we serve, how diverse and how challenged they can be. Having said that, I want to hear a little bit, because you mentioned that the board will have an opportunity to provide the input. So in a way, I'm kind of asking, by sharing this input, what was the basis of the A, B, and C? Saying that it's because of the valedictorian or the salutatorian or because of AP students, I don't think that's a big reason enough, at least for me, to be able to swerve ourselves into a letter grading system in terms of that. That's my comment on that. But I also have a question following to that. Because grades are going to be due fairly often, or rather soon. So you're saying that there's going to be discussion or input, et cetera, being provided from multiple sources or ad hoc committees, et cetera. Is this going to be done rather expeditiously within days? Because I believe teachers and are going to have to submit grades soon. Is that my understanding, or am I incorrect, Mr. Irish?
Sorry, Vice President Flores, grades are due on the last day of the spring semester, which is the end of May 30th. So we need to, if due to this federal emergency, we make a decision to modify our grading policies. If we don't do anything, then our A, B, C, D, F is in place. I think we're all in agreement that that isn't equitable, nor that that's what we want. What we're struggling with is exactly what you just said. Do we look at a hybrid approach, or do we do what some other districts and some of the guidance is saying around credit, no credit, pass, we don't like to use the word fail, pass, not passing. That is guidance from the state, that is guidance from the UC system, guidance from the CSU system, and some other districts in the area have already proposed that. Part of the reason why we are contemplating and discussing a hybrid at ABC is a couple. We just happened, when the shelter in place happened, was halfway through the semester. So we had just at the secondary level completed the third quarter grades. So students have already seen, through going through the school loop or just looking online, what their actual third quarter grade is. The district uses grades, which isn't the only measure, but is one of the main measures in terms of placement for subsequent courses in previous years. So going to a credit, no credit, we'd have to figure out a different policy and a different procedure on how we were going to gain that impact. The other part was just listening to and honoring all students' work. And there's some information that what we're looking at with our grading proposal is, because this is such a new time and novel time in this pandemic, that we're trying to figure out what's going to be counted in the fourth quarter. Is it going to be counted? Is it not? And how that impacts all of our students. So all those items are still in play as we finalize this. Some of this has to be negotiated and has been negotiated with CTA, and others have not. So that's where we're at. I don't have a definitive response to you in terms of the thought process was really about placement, GPA, in terms of class rank valedictorian, because basically if we went to a credit, no credit, we are eliminating this spring semester. So you have to think about it in terms of the junior year. Junior year is when many of our students take AP and honor students and multiple. So that would be wiped out considerably all this spring semester. By proposing this hybrid approach, students that had at the end of the third quarter a possible grade that was less than C, they would still have the opportunity to get a letter grade. That was the thought process. Again, we're just still in the contemplation and discussion phase of it. So I've had discussions with
Thank you for that. And because we're still in the contemplation phase, I want to make sure that the board is able to provide actual input that will definitely be solidified either on paper or through actual means. Again, my basis on this is all of us, administrators, educators, elected officials. We talk about two things many times: the educational gap, the opportunity gap. How do we close that? How do we close that? How do we shrink it? How do we work down? How do we make it so that it doesn't continue? And I think the trauma that many of our students are experiencing right now, but worrying about, am I going to get an A? Am I going to get a C? Am I going to pass geometry? Am I going to flunk, biology, etc.? That's where we need to understand that grades right now, as it stands, there's no research that proves that they are important right now in this day and time with COVID-19. But there's a ton of literature being put out right now, education and otherwise, that showcases that trauma and how grades are affecting our students right now. It's exacerbating this and extending this gap that we're also concerned and focused. So I just want to make sure that we are including the board comment in whatever decision is in whatever you're putting forth in terms. I totally understand that we have to make a decision, and I wholeheartedly support that, because I don't want to do that traditional A through F. And thank you for bringing that up. We do have to take action on it. So that's important. But I also want to make sure, and I don't want to belabor the point, but the A through G, the UC requirement, I want to make sure that we understand that the flexibility, both at Cal State and both at the community college and the A through G. Because if we're just saying, well, we're doing it because of A through G and because of the UC system, without really honing down and really identifying what it is that they're really requiring and what they're not going to honor, et cetera, I think we're doing a disservice to our students. So I want to make sure that we're looking into that. Thank you for that information. I wanted to also ask a little bit about, thank you, Mr. Irish. I wanted to ask Mr. O, in terms of the hotspots, how did, or maybe Mr. Siam, I think he's online. How did we come up to the 500? Was it just everyone submitted their number plus and minus a few, and that's how we came up to the 500 hotspot, the actual number? Because you pointed out 500, so it was interesting to me that it was actually 500, or is that a rough estimate? Mr. O or Mr. Siam?
Okay, I can answer. Yeah, my understanding from Mr. Siam is that the sites, they were still trying to gather information from the families. So they came up with some estimates based on the feedback that they received from the families, and when they add up together, it just happened to be exactly 500. So yeah, it was just a coincidence.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And we said that we were going to determine how many additional were needed, and by when do we think we were able to capture that information? Because I had seen this slide, I think about a week ago, and it said that we're still gathering information on how many more are needed as per information that we're getting from the sites. So do you know by when we're getting that number? Or Mr. Irish, I see your hand.
Mr. Irish.
Yes, Vice President Flores. So we are working with the couple school site leaders that have put in the estimate, like you said. Part of it was just having a difficult time, rightfully so. We have to remember that we were gathering all this information the week before spring break and the week after spring break, and situations changed. And part of the reason of the additional hotspots we're finding, as we have, our staff has been amazing in contacting families, is many of our families have multiple students in our district. So we are now going back, and if we have additional laptops or Chromebooks, we're giving that to our families. If we need additional hotspots because they have multiple families, we're considering that as a district, because It's difficult for a student and a family of 2 or 3 to share and get online at the same time. So to answer your question, we need about 100 more. We are just looking at, there's 2 of our schools have given definite numbers they've completed. We're waiting on 2 others. We are in the 55 additional hotspot range. We are predicting about another 100, but we're just waiting for definitive. Mr. Simon and I and Mr. O, we're confident that if we get 100, we will be able to take care of all of our students and our families' needs in this. And then we'll need to recircle around the actual devices to help them if they need additional devices.
So we have identified which sites those 100 belong to. And do we foresee, as we're moving into possibly summer extension and whatnot, that number won't start up again, or we won't have a balance of new sites needing hotspots? Are we covered is what I'm saying? Do we have overage?
That would be providing some overage, where we'd have a handful. As everyone knows, hotspots right now are a hot commodity. I just want to commend Mr. Sy on being able to get 500. That is quite a few. I will be pushing along with cabinet to acquire additional hotspots, VP floors, because we just need to have them in hand in case situations arise. Because we do have, as you know, we're doing enrollment. New families come into the district all throughout the year. They'll be registering soon. We need to make sure in case for whatever reason they don't have access, that we can assist them. So I agree with what your recommendation is.
Thank you. And many of us also have networks, professional networks that we also have that we can outreach to, either corporate and non-corporate, including our own South San Francisco city, that we can partner with and create great relationships where perhaps if we do have an ongoing need, we can look to lean on other people or other entities that can support us in that way. So if you could please share with the board through an update what those numbers are as we're getting the need and where those sites are, I'd really appreciate it, because I personally could reach out to a few, within my network, professional network, and see what can happen. Lastly, to Trustee Baker's point, I do understand, that and Mr. O's, to your point about the proposal that was submitted to Sacramento in terms of our meal process. But I also want to make sure that we understand that we shouldn't be married to one specific process or approved plan. Plans are made to be modified. Plans are made to be adapted as we see fit. So I appreciate the fact that you are open to revisiting and relooking at how that might change if we need to address it and modify it in each and every way. And I also understand Trustee Richardson's point that if people are hungry, and we should not be limiting or be concerned or concentrating our efforts on how many chocolate milks a family needs. If a family is asking for more or wanting more, it's because there is absolutely a need. It's not just they're shelving it at home. But at the same time, I'm fully aware that accountability has to exist. And this doesn't come from us as a district, but from from State Office of Education in Sacramento. They want a formal process, accountability, and they want to be able to read it and see it. So I urge us to keep an open mind, to be open to modifying the plan, to continuously improve it and re-examine it, perhaps on a weekly basis. And if you can share with us what you're trying, trial and error is the best in terms of being able to get to where we want to get. Because I also want to make sure that the public and parents understand that it's not just us as a board wanting for students to get out of the house and jump in the car and go and pick up the meals with their parents. It's not that we decided on one day to make it the process that way. It's coming down from Sacramento, but at the same time, we should be creative to think outside the box, to be able to have some latitude in terms of what works with our families and what doesn't. And on that same note, I want to remind parents, I think Trustee Lujan as well alluded to this. Please be kind, everyone. Be patient. When you're picking up meals, when you're frustrated that you waited a long time, etc., be kind to each other. Be kind. Remember, these are families that are there volunteering and putting their time and effort and exposing themselves to be able to provide you with lunches, etc. And volunteers, and many of them, I keep on seeing him, Mayor John Goodwin and his family as well. So elected officials are out there too. You know, we're all trying to help and make it. Remember to be kind. Remember to be kind to these nutritional services workers. And those of you that are driving at excess speed limits, etc., don't do that. This is not the time and place. It's a parking lot. Be cordial, be polite. I just want to emphasize that because it can get lost many times. Sometimes we're thinking, I just need the bag and I need to go. Everyone's such in a rush. Everyone's such in a state of uncertainty. But I want to make sure that everyone also understands that waiting those 2 extra minutes, waiting those extra 5-10 minutes in a line, knowing that you're going to receive a free meal, just think about that in the major thing of what we're really receiving and putting forth. Lastly, I want to make sure that we emphasize that as a board, again, I want to emphasize this, we are not saying that we canceled and we made the decision to cancel your proms and your senior grad night. You know, if it's anyone, and I speak from personal opinion, I think I was the most involved senior during my senior year in high school. I loved every single tradition, every single thing. I signed up, I rallied around, I made sure my classmates, all the clubs, everyone, etc., was participating in all our senior traditions, etc. So I want to emphasize that it's not us as a school board that we decided to cancel prom, cancel this activity, cancel grad night, not go to Disneyland. It has nothing to do with us, but it has come down from our county health officer, which issues an order, a health order, that we need to abide as an elected body, protecting the lives of you, your family, your students, etc. I'm telling you, I'm for it 1,001% about senior activities and promotions and 8th grade, you know, celebrations and 5th grade celebrations, etc. But we really have our hands tied because it's about the health of individuals. There has been no decision. We haven't voted on counseling a prom or etc. There has been no vote taken of that matter. And all my colleagues can agree with me on that. We are following what comes down from health officer, from our county, from our county superintendent, as well as collectively as a whole, looking at the best interest of everyone. Thank you. Back to you, President Murray.
Madam Chair, can I do a quick follow-up to Trustee Flores?
Okay, Trustee Baker.
Trustee Flores brought up a great point. You know, we're not just having the kids come out because, you know, we want to get out of the house. But, you know, here's an issue. These kids are supposed to be staying home right now. When we bring them out of the house, we are putting them in a car. Who knows who they're going to meet? You know, and I know as someone who's been a lunch volunteer, I know all the lunch volunteers out there can attest to this. You know, we're wearing protective gear. We're wearing a mask, gloves and everything. But, you know, that still is more than the risk that they're going to have if they stay at home. So if the state can't understand that we need to keep his kids home because, you know, it's for their own health, then, you know, the state's got its priorities mixed up. I mean, San Francisco is not requiring the kids in cars, I'm told. I don't know about any of the other districts around here, but we should not be forcing our kids to come out. You know, and most families don't have small little kids masks. You know, there's no mask that fits the little baby in the back seat. So, I mean, that's something that we need to consider. Thanks.
Thank you. So we've had a pretty robust conversation here today. You guys have brought up, you know, many of my points. My point about the lunches and students being a part of the group that goes out to pick up the lunches. The state has advised parents not to bring their kids to the stores and not to bring, you know, only one family member is supposed to go to the market. And we're saying, if you want to eat and if you want us to give you food for your kids, you have to bring your kids with you. And we're encouraging families to bring their sick kids out possibly. You know, it's just, I think that's something, I personally think that's something that we need to look at and we need to change. So that's my opinion with that. In terms of the grades, we're going to have more conversation about it. So I don't need to bring it up again, but I do want I do want you all to know that even the best students may have challenges at this time. You know, they might have slow internet. They may have 2 or 3 people using the same computer, or there may be a parent, a child, an older child babysitting younger children. We just don't know. There are a lot of challenges, but we can discuss that at another meeting before we make a determination. I appreciate the thought that all of the board members, all of my colleagues have put into this, and I really appreciate all the hard work that that the superintendent and cabinet, teachers, classified workers, everybody is putting into trying to make this work. You know, these are unprecedented times. This is not going to last forever. Things will get better. And right now we need to all work together and try and make it happen in the best way possible. And we may disagree on it, but there will be conversations in future meetings. I too want to encourage all of the parents who receive a survey to fill out the survey and turn them in, because that's the only way that your voice is going to be heard. And you know, you can go on social media and say, well, you know, I don't want this or I don't want that, but unless you fill out that survey, we're not necessarily going to hear that. So please do that. I think that's it for the time being. We will talk about it again at a later date. Thank you all for your thoughtful reports. And
Mary,
huh?
may I ask, just because there was a lot of I think directives coming, and I just want to make sure that it's the pleasure of the board. So there was one, and I think we agreed, keep an open mind with meal distribution, and that we'll pay attention to the numbers, and if they drop, we need to be open to shifting. And that's the pleasure of the board, okay? And then there was another request that we, sorry.
The hard copies.
The
In the district, I mean, in the
Hard
school
copies
site.
of the surveys or provide us surveys.
Yes, provide hard copies of the surveys.
Or a link, whatever is easiest.
To the board. Yes?
Yes. So is it at the pleasure of the board to, if the number on the lunches decrease, we'll revisit the amount of time that we have and the plan that we have for feeding these kids. I would also like for us to consider the, I personally would like to consider changing the plan so that we don't have to have children in coming to school in the cars. And I think that a longer amount of time is necessary. Well, because we got the comment today where one of the parents actually left because she had a meeting. She couldn't wait 45 minutes and the line was that long. So I don't know if it's at the pleasure of the board for us to look at the way that we're feeding these kids or providing food for these kids. They don't need to be a member of our school district. I mean, I know that they can belong to, you know, to other schools, private schools in our district, and we're providing food for all the children. I don't think, as Trustee Baker said, I don't think that any of our families are getting excess food and, you know, selling it on the black market. I think that if they're getting extra food, it's because they're hungry and they need it. And these are hard times. And I don't know why, I personally don't believe that we should make them harder, that we should, you know, and
Yeah, Trustee Murray, I think, sorry, President Murray.
Go ahead.
I'm saying, I think that the board recognizes the risk from the state. I'm also saying that we should probably, push it as far as we can in order to make sure that students are getting fed. So that's my feeling. I'm hoping the rest of the board agrees with me on that.
I would like to revisit. I don't necessarily want to say I want to push to the extent of doing something that we shouldn't be doing, but I want to be creative and think outside the box and provide feedback in terms of plan A or plan B or plan C, and look at, be flexible of what those plans would look like. But I would like to see this plan modified and changed. Yes.
So how do we feel about kids being, having to be in the car in order to get the meals?
Well, I don't want to micromanage staff, but I do suggest.
I don't either.
I know you don't, but I'm suggesting that there's other ways of determining. I think the USDA requirements are that we make an effort to determine that there actually is a student to be served. And for me, if that's just asking, oh, how many kids do you have in your household that need a meal today? That's a system. It's not a good system, but it's a system, and I hopefully think that will accommodate us.
Okay, so do we have enough information? Is it at the pleasure of the board? Number one, to have hard copies of the surveys on the school sites?
Yes.
Yes. And Trustee Baker? Trustee Richardson? Trustee Richardson, yes? No?
Yes,
Vice
sorry.
President? Okay, yes.
Yes.
Vice President?
Yes, I would like to see those. Again, either
Okay.
hyperlink or hard copy.
Okay, and so that's the first direction. The second would be that we be provided with other plans for providing food for our students. Does that sound right? And that the students should not be in the car, or they don't need to be in the car. Since the state is directing families not to take their kids out, I don't know why we would require them to be in the car.
Quickly, I just wanted to say this. There's some students right now that are attending classes, and the teacher's time is wasted if he has to be in the car to pick up the lunch. And if the parent says, I have another one at home, I'm not gonna sweat the small stuff, honestly. So that's my position on this.
Well, and we have no way,
an extra lunch. They're hungry.
we have no way to track the students because as I said, they don't necessarily have to be in our district. They don't have, we provide food for toddlers on up. I mean, so I'm not sure what kind of system there is. I just don't think, there's a waiver that says that students don't need to be in the car. And I don't think that we should require students to be in the car. Does anybody have any other?
I think Mr. O has something he wants to share.
Yeah, can I add? So in order for us to change the plan, we need to resubmit a new plan to CDE for approval. So, so that's the process. If they don't approve it, and then we just go ahead, like, for example, San Francisco, I think they went ahead and not require kids. Then if we get audit at the end of June 30th, where the waiver ends, that's when we're supposed to have all the records, then there's a possibility that we might not get funded, for all the weeks that we served the meals that was not approved by the CDE, the plan. That's the only risk.
Did we not consider the waiver when we were making up the plans?
Yeah, the waiver requires us to submit the plan to address those two items I mentioned earlier, which that's why we had to work back and forth with, or Ms. DeBose had to work with CDE back and forth to come up with a plan where they agreed to us, because, you know, in order to serve, provide meals 2 days a week instead of every day, you know, that requires a plan. And then the plan also needs to include how we can address those 2 items to qualify for the waiver.
So what would happen if we gave out food every day?
So if we gave out food without the students present and we don't have a plan that's approved by CDE, then we basically will lose about $35,000 a week of funding from the state.
Okay,
So
but
that's risk.
okay, so I'm not understanding, because there is a waiver from the state of California that says that students do not have to be in the car in order to receive meals, in order for the family to receive meals. So I'm not, maybe I'm not understanding, but I'm not understanding why we can't come up with a plan and using that waiver that says the kids don't have to be in the car, that we just give out the food for, you know, I don't know what other plan, you know, maybe you could come up with another plan, but my thought is that the state has said that there's a waiver, and has created a waiver for students not to be in the car. The state of California says that that students or children shouldn't be going to the stores, even to the market with their families, with their parents. You know, that you know, they shouldn't be going out. And
So am I correct in understanding that, yes, the state has issued a waiver? However, in order for us to qualify for the waiver, we need to submit a plan. The district, not we, the district needs to submit a plan that is first approved. If we move forward without first receiving that approval, even if the waiver is in place, we do run the risk of potentially being out $35,000 a week, which would not be financially wise, which is one of our jobs as a board. So would a potential solution be to revise a plan and submit it for approval with an eye toward, one, the amount of time we are available to serve food, because that is coming up as a concern as I'm listening to this conversation, as well as addressing the concern about children being in the car. And then we have another meeting next Thursday, if I'm correct in understanding, and we can potentially have this conversation, continue this conversation.
I completely agree with Trustee Lujan's. I guess it was a proposition. I also want to put out that there's other avenues. There's never a set in stone, right? Even if they would come back and say, we deny you this plan doesn't work, they will give us an A, B, and C of what things need to get fixed or remedied in order for us to be, you know, complacent again, or be able to receive their blessing. And even if that doesn't go, let's just put a hypothetical in there. Trustee Baker alluded to this, I believe, 2 weeks ago. We can reach out to our assembly members and to our state senator, and they can intervene absolutely for us if it goes down that route. We have the resources. I don't think we need to be this fearful of oh my God, we're gonna be left without anything. In this day and time, I can tell you, we're not. We serve a lot of kids in our demographic, in our county, that it would be ridiculous if even the media would get caught that the state is not allowing us to serve food or not funding us to serve students meals, et cetera. So I would welcome the opportunity to again, be flexible and look into that a little further and then revisit on next Thursday, like Trustee Lujan mentioned.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Yeah, we'll have Ms. DeBose work with the CDE to see if there's any other ways or if there's any samples, because it seems like, you know, the other states actually with the waiver, the other states come up actually with guidelines for what school district need to follow, but California did not. They basically let each district come up with their own plan to how they can address those 2 requirements in the waiver to qualify. So that's what makes it more challenging.
My suggestion is, yes, I am in concordance with Trustee Flores that yes, we reapply for this waiver, I guess, since we had applied it before. And second, this is a throwing it out there suggestion. Can we as a board declare a health emergency, saying that, maybe by an emergency vote, saying that we do not wish to have our students exposed more than they should be?
So the direction is for Mr. O to look into it further, and that we as a board say that this is a health emergency. We don't want our students outside if they don't have to be. And that would be in accordance to what the state has already said. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do we have to make a emergency vote about this? I mean, do we have, I know that when.
Can we vote?
Because this is an emergency situation to many families, they don't want to bring their kids out now, much less later. So, I mean, I'd like to maybe suggest, and I wish we had a city attorney or something like that, what we need to do here, but I'd like to maybe declare, we vote that there is an emergency situation, and that in the meantime, we just have some evidence that, that we declare an emergency, that way it doesn't have to be 72 hours agendized.
I would rather, I see the impetus for this. I would rather we agendize it and vote on it on our Thursday meeting, upcoming meeting.
Okay, then can we get this on the Thursday agenda, do you think, Madam President?
I believe we can.
Meantime, we'll try to get more information from the CDE.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Ted, or Mr. O, thank you. Thank you for all you've done. We appreciate it. And I know this was a lot. Yeah, thanks. We're just concerned, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President and Dr. Moore, one more directive I want to make sure that doesn't get lost. It's if Mr. I think it was Mr. Irish, if he can provide us with the number of hotspots that we need in the site locations where they're needed. That was one that I had requested, if it's at the pleasure of the board.
The number of hotspots. I think he was going to bring that information. Can that be put on our weekly update?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just recognize that every time we think we've gathered information, new needs will arise. And so if we can just be flexible, that will give you what we have to date.
Sure.
And I will keep you guys updated.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think that completes this part of our meeting. Human Resources, Williams uniform complaints for third quarter ending 3/31/20. Staff will present to the board the quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints for the quarter ending 3/31/20 per Education Code section 35186. Dr. Spalding.
Thank you. Once again, Jay Spalding, head of Human Resources. So the passage of legislation in the wake of the Williams case settlement, Education Code section 35186 requires all school districts in California to prepare a report summarizing data and the nature and resolution of all Williams uniform complaints received by the district in the past 3 months. So for this 3-month period from January 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2020, we received 1 Williams complaint on facilities on February 27, 2020. We did facilitate cleaning effort, and we responded to the person who complained about it, and the resolution, the Williams complaint has been resolved in early March. So we have not heard any other further information, any other stuff, so we consider this matter closed.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, we have resolution number 20-35 for National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Staff recommends the adoption of resolution number 20-35.
Excuse me, Madam President. I had a question to Mr. Spalding before we
Okay,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Mr. Spalding, I understand that this particular Williams complaint had something to do with some of the habits that some of the employees were, employing at the workplace. And my concern right now is, have you resolved it and there are no more problems like that? That you are aware of, and have the corrections been made? And this was done in February. I might be too soon to know if there's no more problems that the typical problems that the complaint addressed.
Well, to our knowledge, so the complaint was filed, given to the principal, and I received a copy the same day, on February 27th. It was a known issue prior to February 27th, and the facilities department was already working with the principal to rectify the situation. So I think on March 10th is when after I'd done, I think, 3 walkthroughs and found no other issues. I did provide the person who complained a letter. I also addressed this to the principal of the recommendations of eliminating food sources to the best of the ability by putting it in plastic containers. We're talking about rodents, and we have. Oh yeah, 30. And so what we've tried to do is try to eliminate any kind of extra food. So there was food that was, I'm just going to say, improperly stored out in the open for, mice to eat. And it's like any place else. If you leave food source out for a length of time, you will attract something, whether it's ants or rodents or other animals, raccoons, but not heard anything back for the last. Since I sent the letter, also an email out to all of the faculty of that school, and I have not received any word or has the principal on anything.
Well, there's nobody in the classroom anymore, so.
Nobody in any of the classrooms, so, unless the teachers are going back to make packets. So the hope is that there's no other food sources around at any other sites, and we'll find out once we open up again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so do I have a motion, or should we read the resolution first? Yes, I can't remember. Or do we take a motion first?
Trustee Lujan to take this one.
Yes, and I'm ready to read if you would like me to read Resolution 2035. Okay.
Please, thank you.
Thank you, President Murray. Resolution 2035 in support of Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas April has been designated Child Abuse Prevention Month in the United States since 1983, and this annual observance is dedicated to raising awareness and preventing child abuse. And whereas child abuse and neglect is an important societal concern that may affect the long-term health and well-being of not only the children, but also the adults they become. And whereas safe, stable, and nurturing relationships and communities can break the cycle of abuse and maltreatment. And whereas child abuse prevention and promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families requires a coordinated and comprehensive response by all systems supporting children, youth, and families, including schools, law enforcement, health systems, faith-based organizations, and community programs. And whereas each person has a stake in ensuring children have access to the resources and supports they need to be secure, healthy, and successful without fear of aggression or cruelty. And whereas all SSFUSD employees must review the mandated reporting requirement annually and immediately report child abuse or neglect to the appropriate authorities. And whereas bullying, a form of peer abuse, can impact a young person's physical, social, emotional, and mental development. And whereas children and youth who may be disconnected from their families are increasingly more vulnerable to online sexual exploitation and trafficking. And whereas it is everyone's responsibility to prevent all forms of abuse from taking place in school, in the community, or through technology, and to consistently advocate for a child's safety. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South San Francisco Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognizes and supports National Child Abuse Prevention Month, regularly passed and adopted this 9th day of April, 2020.
Moves the resolution.
Did you make
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
vice president Flores,
Aye.
President Murray.
Aye. Okay, resolution number 20-36 for Earth Day. Staff recommends the adoption of resolution 20-36 in support of Earth Day. Trustee Baker?
Madam Chair, I'll read it into the record. And I would like to make one slight change to it. Earth Day, I believe, is April 22nd, not April 19th, as it states on this resolution.
I see April 22nd. Oh, on the top it says April. So on the top it says April.
It says April 19th currently, but it should say April 22.
Okay. What I'm looking at, it says April 22nd. Oh, it started April 22nd, 1970. That's the rest.
Yeah, on the first line under the resolution it says Earth Day, comma, April 19th.
I see. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Want to read it?
Resolution 20-36, Earth Day, April 22, 2020. Whereas environmental groups have sought to make Earth Day a day of action to change human behavior, prompt policy changes, initiate environmental reform, promote ecology and respect for the life of the planet, as well as to encourage awareness of the growing problems of air, water, and soil pollution. And whereas this year represents the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day celebration held on April 22nd, 1970, and whereas this year's theme is climate action, an enormous challenge deemed to be the most pressing issue. And whereas schools have the potential to create positive and substantial environmental change in the world while teaching students to be stewards of their communities, the earth, and its resources. And whereas El Camino High School's Ecology Clubs serves, quote, to inspire the conservation of the local ecosystems around the school and the community, experience the unique ecosystems of California, and educate students of the importance of maintaining the environment. And whereas South San Francisco High School's Conservation Club has planted trees for a new orchard on campus, and the Earth Club planned a camping trip to celebrate a year of recycling and gardening. And whereas district staff in several South San Francisco Unified School District schools are focused on efforts to beautify campuses with gardening projects, recycling efforts, and waste management. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South San Francisco Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognizes the efforts to continue a global movement which embraces nature and its values, to adopt measures which increase conservation and sustainability, and to nurture a respect for the environment in all students during Earth Day 2020, regularly passed and adopted this 14th day of April 2020.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
Yes.
vice president Flores,
Yes.
President Murray.
Aye. Okay. Resolution 20-37 for Autism Awareness Month. Staff recommends the adoption of 20-37 in support of Autism Awareness Month. Trustee Baker?
For the record, resolution 20-37 Awareness Month.
Excuse me, can everybody mute their themselves? Thank you.
Whereas the Society for Autism was founded in 1965 to promote research and provide help and guidance for those living with this condition. And whereas the Society helped establish legislation in the Disabilities Act to recognize and protect those with autism. And whereas Autism Awareness Day, April 2nd, was established to raise public consciousness and improve the quality of life of those diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, to lead full and meaningful lives as an integral part of society. And whereas autism can manifest itself in many different ways, and every person with this condition faces different challenges, depending on where they are on the autistic spectrum. And whereas until the second half of the 20th century, only people with severe symptoms were diagnosed with autism, and they were often institutionalized. And whereas autism was believed to result from poor parenting or vaccinations instead of being understood as a neurological disorder. And whereas today's awareness campaigns at schools and self-advocacy have increased the world's understanding and acceptance of autism. And whereas during Autism Awareness Month, we celebrate the many accomplishments of Americans with ASD and ensure they are afforded equal opportunities to reach their full potential. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South San Francisco Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognizes the challenges faced by individuals with autism and continues to support them during Autism Awareness Month. Regularly passed and adopted this 14th day of April, 2020, and I would like to move the resolution.
I'll second.
You're muted, President Murray.
I can't hear.
I'm sorry. All in favor? Can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
vice president Flores,
Aye.
president Murray.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, so moving on to the next item. Resolutions number 19-14 through 19-34 for retirements. Staff
President Murray?
recommends.
President Murray, this is the
Yeah.
one I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
That line is incorrect, but in the body of the description, it's resolutions 20-11 through 20-34.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move resolution.
Through 20 through 20 Okay.
Madam
Do I
Chair,
have-
I'd like to move resolutions 20-11 through 20-34 and move the waive the reading as well.
I'll second.
All in favor? Roll call vote.
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
Yes.
vice president Flores,
Aye.
president Murray.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Next, adoption of the declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Staff recommends the approval of the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2020-2021 school year to the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing as presented to the board. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I had a question about this.
Okay. Okay.
Why must we do this? Why must we have a declaration of need for fully qualified? Why do boards have to do this locally? When doesn't it come from the state?
We have, if I may, trustee Richardson, just to let you know, we have to do this every year to get approval to go ahead. And we're basically saying that we do not think this declaration allows us to hire teachers who have an emergency permit. In other words, that they don't have a full clear teaching credential, but they're close and they can get an emergency permit to teach for 1 year while they get their teaching permit.
Oh, okay. So
That's
like
why
an
we're looking.
interim.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we had a motion. Trustee Baker, was it?
Vice president Flores, I think.
I think it was Flores and Baker
Correct.
for first and second.
Okay, okay. Well, motion, or all in favor, roll call vote.
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
trustee Lujan,
Aye.
Trustee Richardson,
Yes.
Vice President Flores,
Yes.
President Murray.
Aye, motion carried.
Okay.
Next, resolution 20-38 for temporary interfund transfer. Staff recommends the adoption of resolution 20-38 authorizing the temporary internal transfer of funds to the general fund, Fund 01, or any other district fund to cover the payment of obligations due to COVID-19 impact on the state and property taxes. Discussion? Does anybody have a question?
Thank you. I have a question as usual. Mr. O, I know that you briefly told us about this, and I see that is this a temporary resolution request for a transfer, and for how long do you anticipate and how much do you think you may need? The reason I mentioned this is that as a board member, we were briefed by the county manager, who told us that all the allocations from the tax revenue that schools are scheduled to receive will be given to them without any money being held back. In light of this, do you anticipate any spikes in need that we need to do this? And from which fund are we doing it, and how much and for how long? Thank you.
Okay, very good question. So this is basically a precaution. As we know, just a huge impact to the state revenue, all the unemployment and things that's going on, the COVID-19. So this is just a precaution to put in place in case we need to borrow money between funds. For example, in nutrition services, in one of the years, the reimbursement did not come in on time, so we need to cover the expenditures and not have a negative balance at the year end. So we were able to transfer some funds from the general fund to Fund 13, which is the nutrition services fund. So this can also the other way around. So for example, if the general fund, if the property tax doesn't come in, that's the bulk of our revenue doesn't come in on time because people are not able to pay the property taxes, then we're able to borrow from maybe another fund, for example, Fund 13 or maybe some other fund to cover the expenditures. So that way, when we end the year, it's not a negative balance in that fund. So this is only a precaution. We'll be doing this for this year, as well as next year and maybe the following year, just in case. So that way, in case if the need comes, we don't need to hold a special board meeting to get that approved, because we need the board to approve the resolution before this can take place. And it's also only a temporary borrowing.
You have no idea how much, and you're saying from the which fund for the nutrition of the children? I'm just saying, isn't that a different fund and funded already? And are we depleted that fund already? Have we gone through it?
No, we have sufficient balance in there, but we also get reimbursement from the meals we receive for nutritional services from the state. But sometimes if those reimbursements gets delayed, then we need to borrow some money from either the adult ed fund, the general fund, any of the other funds to cover the shortage during the year. So that way we don't end the year in a particular fund with a negative balance. And it could be transferred between any of the funds. Basically, it allows flexibility for the district to be able to cover. So when we close the books, we don't have any fund with a negative balance.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So if there's no other questions, I'm happy to make a motion and request that we waive the reading.
Okay, please. So Trustee Lujan made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Roll call vote.
Trustee Baker,
Yes.
Trustee Lujan,
Yes.
Trustee Richardson,
Yes.
Vice President Flores,
Yes.
President Murray.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, so review of future agenda items, meetings. We did say that we wanted to place on future agenda. What was it, Trustee Flores? You wanted something put on a future agenda.
Yes, I believe I wanted to look into, on our April 23rd meeting, if we could look at a review of the grading or discuss grading, further discussion on grading. We also talked about the emergency declaration. And I'd also like, at the pleasure of the board, if we could be provided with the survey results and discuss maybe the survey results. Or I don't know, Dr. Moore or Mr. Irish, how you were planning on disseminating those results to the board, if at that
Would that
meeting.
be? Oh.
Yeah, I think as soon as we have access to it, we're happy to share. I just don't know how long it's going to take us to compile that and be able to turn that around. I'll defer to Mr. Irish since he's saying this.
Vice President Flores and members of the board, I mean, it's a Google form, so I can easily sort and filter from the options. The only part that would be more cumbersome is the additional comments. That's the part where maybe someone, a parent or guardian or a student, puts in an alternative proposal. So I will put that all on one sheet and share it. So I don't think it'll be any issue. I'll be able to get that to you for next week's meeting. But remember, it closes on Monday, so I'll have to give it separate. It won't go in the board packet.
Would it be possible, just so that in terms of transparency's sake, so that the public and students can hear some of the submitted, I'm not saying do the laundry list of 350 comments, etc., but could we get maybe 1 or 2 slides of summary? Is that something?
It wouldn't be in part of the board packet, so we could share our screen because we submit information, as you know, a week before.
Sure. Yes, understood. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, can I just clarify that that is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it, did
Yeah,
I hear some yeses?
Yeah, so long as it's not, I mean, like in terms of disaggregating the data, so long as Google does make their nice neat pie chart on the back end of the survey. But in terms of the individual comments, if there's like 350, then it would be more just the general trend. So that way we get a sense of what are the general trends. I don't know that it's fair to ask if the survey results are due by the end of day the 20th and we have a meeting on the 23rd. I want to be also mindful that Mr. Irish is also working on grading. So I want to be mindful of what we're asking of staff in terms of preparing for the meeting on the 23rd.
I just wanted to ask about the method that we would be using. Is this a Survey Monkey or just one of those freebie poll taking things, or how are we gathering this data? Are we going to be paying somebody to do it, or what's the mechanism?
So Trustee Richardson, we use Google Suite. So in the Google Suite for educators is Google Forms, and it's free.
Oh, okay. So is that good? I mean, I hear so much about Google, and I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that they're just getting better and better about everything.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a summary of board directives?
I will give it a try. Okay, the items that were just added on the agenda for the 23rd, plus getting a hard copy or a hyperlink of the survey to the board. Mr. O to look into the meal distribution plan further in regards to the waiver. And then, as was just mentioned, declaring an emergency health situation. And Mr. Irish to provide the number of hotspots needed by sites. And I think that captures it all, unless there's anything I missed.
So did we say that the hotspots, that could just go on our
Board update.
board update?
Okay,
And then I think with the emergency health situation, that's kind of tied into the update. It's Mr. O's update on what options are available with the revised waiver for the lunch program was my understanding.
Okay.
Because it would be one of two options. If we're able to move forward with a revised waiver that addresses the concern about the duration of time that we're able to serve lunch and also prevent, ideally not have children in the car, then we don't necessarily need to move forward with the path of moving forward with a state of emergency.
Great. Thank you.
Like that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So good and welfare. Does anybody, we talked in comments earlier. Is there anything anybody else has to?
Building workshop.
Yeah.
Are we at the end here?
We are.
Oh my goodness, I was expecting a,
So
I
do
just look
any of the
forward
board
to a
members
lot
have,
should I go first?
okay,
I thought we were still going on.
sure.
I just wanted to say that
Trustee Richardson.
I'm very happy to hear with the updates that we're getting for the people in the county, and the county's doing everything possible for our families, even in the undocumented. Everybody's concerned about rentals, and there's a moratorium on being evicted. And I'm saying to those undocumented people, even though they feel they have to work, those are not essential positions. In other words, they should be it should be in shelter in place, but they are very poor. And those people are the ones I want to reassure. And I hope the translator is capturing this to remind them that there are other programs if they don't get unemployment insurance because they won't qualify under the federal program, and they wouldn't qualify for the state program either. So, but there are other options, and there's places to receive free food, and actually there's also free, a moratorium on your rent. And I also, okay, so that's one. And then the next item that I wanted to mention was the fact that there is testing at the San Mateo Event Center, and it's free. It's being underutilized, and we were told that not enough people are coming by. And now they're offering a van service, meaning you don't have to drive your car and go to try to get tested. They're even lowering some of the symptoms. Before you had to have a whole host. Now it's possibly if you have a scratchy throat, you can go drive by and get a test or be brought in a van, and for free you will be tested. So those are the two items. And again, I want to mention the census. It's very important. Stand up and be counted. It's very simple. There's 59 languages, and it takes 10 minutes, a phone call, or go to the webpage, census.org or gov, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Flores?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I also wanted just to, once again, I don't think it's, we do enough of this in general. So I want to once again commend and thank the cabinet, Superintendent Moore, the principals, the site leaders, our staff, our union presidents, everyone. It really takes, everyone to make this work. I know I'm forgetting a lot of people, but you know who you are, and you're making a difference here in South San Francisco in our school district. So that's very important. We're all working, we're all learning what this so-called new normal is, right? And what that so-called new normal will be in a month, in 2 months, in the summer, in the fall. For those of you that probably heard Governor Newsom's comments earlier today in terms of what the classroom is going to look, right? What is going to look at PE, what PE classes are going to look now. So we all have to be mentally and emotionally prepared for that. I also want to acknowledge the teachers and those principals and site leaders who are still keeping it light and keeping it creative. You know, we can complain about 1,001 things, but we also could be really fun. And I saw the staff and teachers at Monteverde put out this really cute collage message to their students via social media. So things like that really speak out to the nature of what really speaks to us as creativity, as keeping it light, keeping it fun. I also acknowledge other teachers that were sending and writing special handwritten notes to their students, remembering that personal touches during this time go a long way. So thank you to those teachers. I saw it also on social media that are, you know, simple as "I miss you." And I think Mr. Yano said it earlier today, you know, teachers and students, we're all a family, and it is affecting all of us. And as a former educator, I can't even bear to begin how that relationship has separated so many families and people. Lastly, I wanted to thank and wanted to recognize the South San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and its leadership under Liza Normandy and the staff, Linda and Arlene. In particular, I wanted to thank them and their member businesses, because it's very easy for, at this point in time, for all these businesses to say, well, we can't support student scholarships this year because of A, B, and C, and rightfully so because of this pandemic. But they continue with their commitment to stand behind our youth and our students. Even though the annual youth scholarship luncheon is not being held this year, obvious reasons why, due to the shelter in place. And even during these difficult times of uncertainty, they have pledged to continue this year with their generous contribution and pledged to assist our high school graduating seniors with their financial support in scholarships. I was made aware that there are about 30 students who will be receiving a scholarship, and that means a lot. There, of course, might be some that are not necessarily in our district, but still, regardless, this is monumental, and it's partnerships with our community and business sponsors like this that really are vital to the success of not only this program put on by the Chamber, but to our district, to our high school seniors. And it's very motivating to a high school senior, despite everything that's going on, to be made aware that they will still receive a scholarship. So I want to acknowledge and thank them for that. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lujan.
Thank you, President Murray. Like my other board members, I really just want to, more than anything, thank the community of South San Francisco. I have watched our community come together in powerful ways. I've watched our educators, our parents challenge themselves and really come and rise above the challenge. There is an awesome educator in our school district who allowed me to teach an art in action lesson last week, and it was the most rewarding and positive experience. It was a learning opportunity for me, and it was just so powerful to be able to connect with students. And yes, right now it's challenging, and we really are learning quite a bit as we move forward. But I just want to commend everyone, whether you're a parent, your staff, you're an administrator, you're an elected official within the larger community, you work for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm just continually impressed with the way that the community is coming together, despite us all being so separate and apart. So just thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Trustee Baker.
Just want to repeat the comments, and for any members of the public listening, I just want to let them know that we're hearing you. We're hearing about all the inconsistencies and the difficulties you're having. It's I think 4 of the 5 of us have full-time jobs. A couple of us have kids too. So yeah, the whole points of having to do all this, be a teacher as well as do a full-time job at home. We know what you're going through. We have sympathy. So what benefits you benefits us as well. So we're trying to help that. Other than that, yeah, just really proud of everyone in our district, and thank you. And it's hopefully we'll see you all on August 12th. In person. So thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I don't really have a whole lot to say that would add to what you've already said. I'm proud of our community. I am beyond proud of our superintendent and our cabinet and our principals and teachers and classified workers. Everybody is just amazing. You're going 150% or more. And I'm actually proud of our board as well, because you guys, we meet with our superintendent on if not a daily basis, a very regular basis. We're all going into the community, and we're listening in on meetings for the county and California School Board Association, City Council, and whatever other meetings are there. That helps us to make a better PTA meetings, a better decisions. Beyond that, I mean, I miss horribly being able to go out and see the kids, and going and to all the school events, and seeing our teachers and seeing what they're doing with our kids. It's killing me. I was going through old pictures, because I take a lot of pictures. I was going through all old pictures going, oh, I remember doing this last year. It's so sad. I think I'll start posting them on social media. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of you. Leilani, I appreciate you. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Very well.